Okay. Hey guys. Give me a second. I'm trying to get this camera right. Let's see here. Got my little bootleg mic here. All right. Can you guys hear me fine? Somebody say something in the chat so I know. Because y'all know sometimes the sound be tripping on this thing. I still don't like that angle either. All right, what's going on? Okay, you guys can hear me. Dang, this thing is delayed. Okay, so what I figured out, y'all, is this chair is killing me. I gotta get me a new chair too. So one of the things I've discovered is like I need to go and upgrade or boost up the broadband to my internet service. That's why we kind of ran into whatever we ran into last time. I guess because I called Comcast because I was like, hey, I was doing my little live stream and all of a sudden my internet connection started tripping. And they were saying, I guess the larger the stream, the harder it is for them to maintain the connection, which I don't know, because I just happened to see that there were a bunch of other prominent Black YouTubers who all went through the same thing that week, where their live stream cut off once they started talking about some serious stuff. So I don't know what to believe, but you know, it is what it is. So we'll give it about 2 or 3 more minutes. I'll kind of speak to some of you guys in the chat really quick, and then we'll start. Okay. Happy Juneteenth Eve. All right. Hey, Alan. Alan is the road dog. Alan be like loyal and on point with everything. He's gonna always be on time. Also, congratulations to Alan. He just graduated from UW, University of Washington, Bothell campus. Congrats. He's been putting in work, so that's good for him. So make sure y'all tell him congratulations. Oh, I see Tana May is in here. Oh, snap. Tana May, that's my other road dog. So now she's gonna check me if I'm on here making up too many stories. We're being too dramatic. What's going on? Dina, Amber, Jennifer Richardson, Swante, I think that's Swante. Chicago Cottage Witch, all right. Jalil, James Hudson, what's going on? Adrian, all right, Florida, y'all be careful out there. Sue's 26. Simply Simone, shout out to Atlanta. Miss Pam, hey Olympia. Olympia, are you done with school yet? Because I think I feel like this would be your senior year, right? For college, I'm not sure. I remember you started college a few years back. I don't know if it's been 4 years yet. What's going on, Joe? Yeah, Comcast has been trash, Christine. I know, man. But like the building I live in, you only get Verizon or Comcast, and they both are about the same level of terrible. So, let's see. Ash Cash. All right. Can you speak on John Crawford III? Hold on, let me double check if I wrote that in my notes here. Is that the one from Walmart? Yeah, that's the guy from Walmart. I remember that. All right, Najee Calloway. All right, we're gonna start 1 more minute, y'all. Please discuss Black women being overly or largely overlooked in cases of police brutality. Oh, we get into that. Don't worry. Yes, give Alan his things. All right. Yeah, so hopefully by the next live, I can upgrade whatever my internet speed is so we can have it a little faster. This would explain why when we did the quarantine party that time and I was doing the trivia and to name that tune, all the answers were coming in 2 minutes later. And then y'all was cussing me out in the chat. Like, we already said that. And I'm like, well, I ain't seen it yet. What you want me to do? But, all right. Tanae Love. Oh, Lord, there's 2 Tanaes in here. Wait a minute. Okay, Chanel, what's going on? Said my hair is flourishing. Just today, a little juices and berries. You should have saw it about an hour ago. It ain't look like this. Chad Cooper. I have a single dropping tomorrow called I Am. All right, y'all be sure to check that out. Let's see. Speaking of, okay, I can do a quick story time before I get into my thing. Speaking of Alan talking about graduating from UW, I talked about this in my podcast, my Howard University series. So when I was 17, I knew there were 2 schools that I was going to, no ifs, ands, or buts. It was either going to be Howard or it was going to be Morehouse. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? And at the time, I was still living in Washington State. My parents were not fond of me moving 3,000 miles away. because they're like, no, you're this nice sheltered kid. You're not going to be able to survive in the city like DC or Atlanta because you've just been sheltered too much. And so they pretty much told me, and like one low-key like forced me to apply to University of Washington. And so I applied to Howard, Morehouse, University of Washington. And then I purposely just never sent my transcript to UW so I couldn't get in on purpose. And then what I did was like UW sent me a letter saying, hey, everything looks great, but we just need your transcript. And so I just never sent it in, and I just kept the transcript and hid it in my drawer. And then maybe like 2 years in while I was at Howard, my parents, because they were like kind of changing my room around, they found the letter. Let me just say I got cussed out in some languages I had never heard before. Boy, they let me have it. Miss Riri 1984, please send me well wishes. They are boarding up things because, oh Lord, are you in Tulsa? Jesus. Okay. Oh, Tulsa. All right, we need to go ahead and start here. Tim Scott, what? Dang, y'all. I'm gonna just say this. Thank you, Azune 23. There's a lot to cover today, so we may not be able to get to everything because there's that much. Happy birthday, Olympia. Just because there's been so much to happen in just the last 2 weeks. Like I just made a video like 5-6 days ago, but it seems like it's been a month with everything that's happened in just the past few days. So first, let's start off with, oh yeah, you are in Tulsa. Okay. So first, let's start off with some of the things that are the obvious. One of the obvious things are, one, we've seen the craziness in response to what's been happening to the calls for action in regards to police brutality. And one of the most disturbing things that I noticed, and I'm sure many of you noticed as well, especially with the protests that were going on, is that you notice that a lot of the police at this point were no longer even trying to hide face or cover up some of the shenanigans that they were doing. You watched them literally shoot protesters in the face. You watched them beat up journalists. You watched them shoot windows out of people who lived in residential areas. You watched them shoot tear gas at people who were sitting on their porches in their neighborhood because the police said, go in the house. And another thing you've seen is you've seen a lot of police walk off the job, right? You've seen them walk off because they feel that they're not getting the support from, you know, their city officials or elected officials, or they don't like the smoke that's been coming. And so you have that aspect. And then I think one of the crazier bits is when you're talking about white America right now, they have been on one. Like I could have, if I had the energy and time, I probably could have made about 12 videos just of the different shenanigans I've seen with people literally just losing their minds. And what I think it is it's a conversation of power and control. And right now, with everything that's been happening in the last 6 months, we're living in a period of uncertainty where people don't really know what's next. You know, the economy's all over the place. You have COVID-19, and then some people are still on the bridge about that being a hoax and this, that, and the third, but we're still seeing people dying. So even if COVID-19 was a hoax, something ain't right in the water and people are still dying. So you have that going on. You have 46 million people now at this point who don't have jobs or who've had to file for unemployment since the third week of March. You have the international affairs that are going on. You got the civil war going on in Yemen. You got India and China beefing at the moment, and everybody's crossing their fingers like, God, please don't let them two start fighting, because if they start some stuff, Russia's going to get pulled into it. Then somehow the U.S., you know, Trump does not run from violence, so he'll jump into that crap too. And, you know, so you got all that going on. And so I think what's happening is a lot of people feel that they are no longer in control of what's happening. And with a lot of white Americans who already feel that they control everything anyway, they are losing their minds, because on top of all this, now we have these police brutality protests, and you have all these calls for action, and you have a lot of people being called out. And at this point, the respectability politics isn't working anymore. Black people aren't having it anymore. There's not going to be too much singing and walking and chanting anymore. People are really calling things out as they see it. And I think for a lot of white Americans who are already all over the place with everything that's happening, this is like the final nail in the coffin, because now even black folks have lost their mind, and they're not doing what we say do anymore. You know, look at all of the clips you've seen where people just have a sign that says, you know, Black Lives Matter or something like that. And you've seen so many white Americans lose their minds, and they're boycotting restaurants. I saw they keep tearing down the signs. You saw the teacher go and snatch the sign out of the little girl's hand. I just saw the clip from Bed-Stuy, New York. I'm like, what part of Bed-Stuy is this? That ain't the Bed-Stuy I remember. Not the one Lil' Kim was talking about. But you saw somebody have a whole meltdown because there was a Black Lives Matter sign. You've seen, you've even seen, like, I just saw the clip in some suburban neighborhood where there's the guy, he works for Homeland Security. This is in Florida, but he saw the black teenagers and assumed that they didn't live in the neighborhood. And so he goes and harasses them and goes through all, the ifs and the buts and the woes and everything else like that until those kids' grandfather comes out and kind of regulates. You saw the clip where the woman went and harassed the guy who spray painted like Black Lives Matter in chalk. It wasn't spray paint, it was chalk. He wrote it in chalk on his property. They didn't believe that he lived there, and they were, going to call the police and everything else like that. I'm just like, y'all have lost your minds. You really have. And the funniest bit is the racism that's jumping out. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're just saying exactly how they feel. And it's so funny because you're watching so many of these people lose their jobs. A lot of these folks are getting Amy Coopered in this economy. They're signing up to get fired in this economy on this land. So, because even the woman and the husband that both lost their jobs because, the woman went and confronted the guy who put the Black Lives Matter bit on, his porch or his brick wall with the chalk. And, she went up there and wanted to know who he was and this, that, and the third, and they're going to call the police. I was like, no disrespect. She should have called the police on whoever did that plastic surgery. Like, I'm not one to kind of knock people for going to the doctor and getting slit up and stuff. But if you're going to have to do all this yanking and tugging and pulling, your facial features should still be able to move. That's all I'm saying. You need to reorganize what your priorities are. Priorities just all out of whack. But you're seeing a lot of these people just lose their minds. And with the men, that element of not being in power and being in control, it is driving a lot of them crazy. I saw another clip where this guy, he was so pissed. And mind you, he went to Supercuts, so you should have already been mad right then and there. But this white guy had went to Supercuts and was pissed because they had like another sign in the business, supporting, the movement, I guess. And he was pissed about it. And so he pretty much was saying, why are you guys playing this N-word music and everything else like that? Then there's a whole fight because there's another person, like another white man, who actually goes and the two of them get in a fight inside of the shop. Like, you just see clip after clip after clip. I was like, you guys are all just losing your minds. Just the dramatics. And it's so funny because collectively, in my opinion, I don't think white people are going through anything right now. The only thing that's making them uncomfortable is the fact that racism is being put into the forefront and being criticized. And for a lot of people, and again, I'm not saying this is every single white American, we know that, but collectively there's enough people in that demographic to make an argument about, because there's that many of them. There's that many clips that we keep seeing every day. But literally, they have lost nothing. Literally nothing. There's no, nobody's coming to bulldoze their houses or take their jobs or anything. It's literally Black Americans and a lot of other people in the country who finally gotten a wake-up call just saying, hey, something has to be done about what's happening with the policing system. And I've talked about that on this channel for years. We always keep saying the policing system, the judicial system, and the prison industrial complex, all of that has to be gutted and revamped, and something got to happen with that because it's a problem. And so just that conversation alone has made so many people uncomfortable. And for my question with that, it's like, well, what makes you uncomfortable about it? Are you just comfortable locking up Black people unjustifiably and letting them get shot in the back? And another thing I keep hearing is people will always say, as a rebuttal, they'll bring up, whoa, there were 177 white people who were killed by police. And I'm like, okay, and just as terrible. But the thing is, you all collectively don't go out and fight for anything like that. It seems like that you only have an issue with something after Black people complain about it. And you tend to only use it as a rebuttal to kind of silence what it is that Black people are talking about. I saw a post on Twitter where this woman was talking about human trafficking. And she was like, I think human trafficking is a bigger issue than racism in this country. How come I'm not seeing any marches about it? And I'm like, well, I ain't seen you leading the charge. And if we want to go there, if you've been following my channel, you know that in every video, right in the description box, there is a website to the link called justask.org, all about human trafficking. And that's been on my channel for at least the last 3 years. So I'm kind of like, some of the people just, one, you're not paying attention to a lot of these arguments. I said this in the Breonna Taylor video as well. When people always try to talk about violence in Black communities, or they always try to say something like, how can we expect them to respect us if we don't respect ourselves? And I'm like, here we go with this nonsense again. But even in regards to that, there's a bunch of arguments. I'm not going to rehash everything because I said it in my Breonna Taylor video. But the two main things are, one, I think people need to start looking at numbers and recognizing that when you're talking about violent crime, when it comes to different groups of people against each other, it's pretty much the same across the board. It's not something that can be calibrated based just on race. So when you're talking about murders or the murder rate, black on black violence, it's at a rate of like 92, 93%. White on white violence, 86, 87%. But again, we have the conversation of the fact that Black neighborhoods are policed a lot more heavily. Black people are charged and convicted at higher rates for the same crime as white Americans. And in addition to that, listen, no disrespect, a lot of white Americans do a lot of things behind closed doors and just don't even utilize law enforcement. And then when you're talking about the proximity killings or murders that happen with people who don't know each other, because really when you're talking about any kind of crime rate, when you're talking about murders, most of them are proximity killings. You know what I mean? It's usually somebody has some kind of relationship with the person who killed them or who they killed. They work together. They live together. They're in some kind of relationship. They live in the same building. They shop at the same stores. They go to the same gas station. They go to the same church. And look, I watch the ID channel. I'd be seeing all the people on Forensic Files and everything else like that, stabbing and killing up each other. And then they went to the same church. But you know, you have those killings, and those are usually most of the killings that you see. But then when you talk about the realms of killings where it's people who don't know each other, where it's a complete stranger ideology. And I think that's the argument you hear a lot of people bring up when they try to mention, well, blacks are killing each other at high rates. They try to use the whole, you know, you go into a black neighborhood, nobody knows anybody, and everybody just shoot up each other and spray, you know, they just spray everybody. When you look at the numbers, the rate of violence and murders are actually higher in white communities than they are in black communities by the numbers. In black communities, the percentage was 38. In white communities, the percentage was 51. And so, again, I'm always like, please look at the numbers before you start trying to shut down any argument. What I don't like is if there is any marginalized group of people or a group of people who are disenfranchised by any kind of system and they're calling that system out, it is not your job to go and speak on behalf of that same system that you're also living under, just so you can try to paint yourself to be the exception or to be somebody, you know, in some special standing. Like, no, you're living under that same system as well. So I'm always like, calm down with that. You're like, you're in the way. And then again, I just don't like the idea of when people are like, you know, well, how can we expect them to respect us if we don't respect ourselves? They don't respect themselves. Real talk. Like, have you seen, like, even if we just talk COVID-19 and you see America's response, I don't want to hear anything about any groups of people respecting themselves, because folks have been willing to let their own grandparents kick the bucket and die so they can go to the beach, or so they can go and do whatever they need to do. I'm not going to spend all day arguing with some of you guys about what you think about COVID-19. But again, I'm just saying, you got 118,000 people dead in 3, 4, 5 months. Yes, people die every day. Yes, there's a flu that goes around. But at this point, the COVID numbers are way past the flu. So I don't know how much longer y'all want to keep trying to push the, it's no big deal, it's a hoax, this, that, and the third, whatever. And so there's that. And then also, I think what's also happening is you're seeing the issues in regards to people having a false sense of wealth. I keep seeing so many clips of white Americans coming after black folks because they don't believe that they live in a certain neighborhood, or they believe they don't live in this building. They believe that they don't belong in a certain space. That same clip I was talking about with the guy who was harassing the teenagers, and he was saying, you don't deserve to be here. I was like, here we go. And so what's happened in this country, I always say things like amenities give people a false sense of wealth, because in reality, across the board, most Americans are currently living either in the working class bubble or the lower bottom tier of what's left of the middle class. Everybody, doesn't even matter what race you are. That's usually where most people are. Yeah, you got the folks who are living a little bit better off. And what I mean is, most people, like I said, are one paycheck away. That's why that's exactly why after that third week of March, you saw so many people go straight to the unemployment line. You know what I mean? That's why the week after you saw that number jump and double. And some of those same people who are in the lines collecting those, you know, the unemployment checks are some of the same people who 3-4 months ago would have called the police on a black person for being in their apartment. And they're in the same boat. Even living in my building, I have watched moving truck after moving truck come in this building, and I'm seeing people move out all the time. And I'm not trying to criticize or attack anybody for what it is that they have or what it is that they don't have. But what's happened in this country is there's a false sense of wealth among white Americans where they often feel that black people should not have what it is that they have. And so you constantly see, like, a perfect example would be like my hometown. Like I said, I'm from Spanaway, Washington, which is, it's like a suburb, maybe 15 minutes from Joint Base Lewis McChord. It used to be called Fort Lewis, and there used to be an Air Force base called McChord. They kind of joined them together. It's Joint Base Lewis. And then all of that whole area is like 20 minutes from Tacoma, Washington, which is like another 30 minutes from Seattle. And so even in the area that I live in, you saw so many gated communities, right? You know, we have a gate to get in our community. Anyone just can't come in here. And then literally like just one block over would be a meth lab and an RV park. And then, you know, I'm just like, oh, okay, but people will get the idea that they're wealthy because of amenities. Like even living in DC, I've been here since 2006. And I've kind of watched the city go through the change. It was already in a change when I got here. It had already started, but at least when I got here, it was still chocolate city. It's you know, we're no longer a majority in the city. But what I did notice is you saw the influx of the high rises or the luxury condos and apartments and stuff get built and everything like that. And it's so funny because sometimes I'll like just be in like the lobby of my building, and I'll hear people kind of talking about other buildings that they're scouting out. And the first thing I always hear is like, oh, well, what amenities do you have? And somebody say, oh, well, you know, my building has a pool and it has a gym and we have a spa and we have all of this. And I'm like, that's cool, but you can't afford that on your own if you were to buy your own house and get all that. Like, I mean, these buildings kind of give you the false sense that you have more than what you really have, because in reality, in DC, you're not going to be able to get a house with a pool and a basketball court and a spa and a rooftop grill and all that stuff on the salary that you think you have it, and be able to just afford a luxury lifestyle. Apartment buildings can often give you that. And so people often think that they're like super, super wealthy. I happen to look at the Yelp review on my building, and my building has like 1.5 stars. And when you read the commentary says there's too many black people that live there. You know, they'll say there's so many black folks that live in there. And I personally believe all of them are on like the Section 8 voucher, or they're on a tax credit or something. So if you make over, you know, $100,000 a year, don't move there. It's not the place to go. I'm just like, y'all are on some stuff. But again, you're just seeing people lose their minds in this country. And the funniest bit is, I don't get why people are so pissed just to hear the phrase Black Lives Matter. Like, that crap is the funniest thing to watch, because people literally like have convulsions with this. It's like they're more dramatic than the people that are on those infomercials when they try to cut the tomato with the butter knife. Like, you ever see that? Like, they have like the butter knife and they're trying to cut and it's just not working. Or like, I'm looking wild now. Or there'll be like some infomercial where, I don't know, they were trying to hammer something on the wall with the stud, and then, I don't know, the TV fell off the wall and then the whole house collapses and then there's an explosion. I'm like, this is so dramatic. Hot mess. Anyway, so again, you're seeing a whole lot of craziness going. It's a wild time. All right, dang, Mike Mack, you here again. So Mike Mack is one of my biggest fans. He's somebody who comes on every live, and ooh, come on here. Are you trolling today, Mike? What you doing? Or do you need another vacation? Oh no, he's mad again. So again, he comes on to every live, because one of the interesting things about when you get a channel that starts growing is there's a lot of people who are not going to like what it is that you say. And so rather than going and putting their energy into something else, they just come in and follow your every move, really because they're intrigued about everything you're saying and because it challenges their status quo. And so a lot of times they don't even have the range to carry the conversation with what you're talking about anyway. So all they can do is throw insults, because that's all they know. And that's one of the things that happens in this country anyway. That's why it's one of the reflexes where you hear a lot of people always call you the N-word or something else right off the bat if they can't have a conversation, or if they can't handle whatever the discourse is, because that's just not their lane of strength. Like, it's just not their range. So Mike, stay in your lane. Enjoy. I thank you for it. This is monetized, by the way. So you're helping me to get what do I want to buy? I actually want to get a new MacBook. So stay on and enjoy the chat. I might be able to get a new MacBook Pro soon. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Oh, and then the last bit with that, I think also one of the reasons why you're seeing so many people just so irate with everything that's happening is we have to also be honest about the way that history's been taught in this country. Because like, I wish that when you talk about something like slavery, I wish that in the schools it was taught in the way where it was presented as slavery is a system that oppressed many for over 400 years, and the long-term effects of that system still affect us today. If that would have been taught in K through 12 schools, and then of course the details in regards to everything surrounding that were also, you know, exemplified and everything else like that, a lot of people would have a better understanding of why things are the way they are. But unfortunately, when you go to K through 12, what happens is you're pretty much taught slavery happened a long time ago. Abraham Lincoln freed them, and then, you know, everything was good. And then I don't know where in the 1950s, things were segregated magically. Some folks were very, very mean to black people. And then Martin Luther King, you know, he led a march and Rosa sat on the bus, and then Martin Luther King died. And then everybody got a heart all of a sudden again. And like literally everything just works out now. And so racism is gone and it's of the past. That's one of the reasons why in all of your history books, you know, the Black history section was always like 20 pages. And you can also thank the Daughters of the Confederacy for that. I'm doing a separate video on that. God, I'm trying to have it done next week. I got like 6 videos I'm trying to do that are all like specialty topics that are not my in the news. Like I'm trying to finish the Brandy one. So we're going to try to get it all out. But a quick, I guess, preview is like when you're talking about the Daughters of the Daughters of the Revolution, Daughters of the Confederacy. Almost the same thing. You know, one of the things that they did was pretty much they play a role into why the content in your history books are the way it is. And one of the things that they did was literally within the different states, some history lessons are taught differently depending on what state you're in. So a state like California has a very more relaxed approach to gun laws in comparison to a state like Texas when you're talking about how it's presented in the history books, even with what happened during the Civil War and everything like that. The history has been pretty much, depending on the state that you're in, they literally went and changed what really happened, or they would word it in such a way where it made things seem like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not too bad. That's why when that Daughters of the Confederacy building was on fire in Richmond, I was like, oh, okay, all right, I don't say nothing. But yeah, you look at that McGraw-Hill company that makes most of the high school history books and middle school history books. Like, there's a lot of foolishness in that. So I can't wait to upload that video for you guys. And by the way, there's a really good, I wonder if I have it in my phone. I can tell you guys a good article that kind of references that as well before I actually do my video. Let's see if I can find it in like the next 10 seconds. If not, I'm gonna just keep moving on because I don't want to keep talking. Oh, look at me finding it already. So, okay, here's a perfect example. So like right now, the book is showing me, or my phone is showing me a picture of some amendments, right? And so in California, it says, here's one example. On this annotated Bill of Rights, a California textbook explains the rulings on the Second Amendment have allowed for some gun regulations. And then when you go to the same book, but the book that's released in the state of Texas, it says in the same place, the Texas edition of the textbook contains only a blank white space. So there's not even a mention of that. And so we're going to get into that. And so they pretty much played a role in influencing what the politicians and those who were up top would do when it came to creating the curriculums in the K-12 institutions. Thank you, the CD Effect, and Croy Rennie. Appreciate it. And so, like, literally, you're seeing all of that. So again, a lot of Americans are just walking around here clueless, and they've created this warped, fantasized mentality or a viewpoint of what they think America really is. And so every day that they step out of the house and they see Black people protesting about something, or they see somebody challenging the status quo, for them, it feels like they're being personally attacked, because when they think of America, they think of themselves. They don't think of the rest of us. For them, America is what they see and how they see it. That's why so many people are so gung-ho and pissed off. Even if you talk about like the NFL and you talk about the Redskins and how it's been an ongoing battle to get that mascot name changed. And you've had all of these different groups say the reason why we want this to be gone is because, you know, it's an offensive term. And when you talk about the history of the idea or the name Redskins, you have to go back to Boston, because of course the Redskins are not native to Washington, D.C. They were a team that were from Boston, Massachusetts. And if you go back to the history of Boston, Massachusetts, I forgot the name of the Native American tribe, but at the time, when you go back a few hundred years, this specific tribe, they pretty much had a bounty on anybody from this tribe: women, children, adults, babies. And each group would be worth a certain amount of money if you could bring their head. So literally, people would go and kill these people and then hang their heads on display. The reason you called it Redskin was because of the blood that would drip down afterwards. And so that's the initial origin of the name. Now, they've watered it down and turned it into some Sesame Street thing. And that's why when you saw the coach from the Redskins say, well, you know, it's, you know, for me, growing up in Washington, D.C. in the 1970s, my father was the biggest fan. And on Sundays, we would come together in the family, and my Aunt Dina would make a casserole and we would watch the Redskins. And it just symbolized what America was all about. And so people will go and take history and warp it to the point where they take out the truth and replace it with what it is that they want to say and how they want to feel, what it is that makes them comfortable. And then afterwards, the groups of people who are a part of that initial history that are saying this crap is wrong, they get vilified and attacked. Like literally, perfect, scalping, gaslit for life. Thank you, scalping, all that bit. But like literally, it's the same thing that's happening now when you're just talking about Black America saying we've had enough. And it's crazy because I just said this, and somebody made a comment on it on one of these videos a while back, but I said it on my Daniel Caesar video when he was talking all that foolishness. And I had said, like, it would only be a matter of time before you start seeing Black folks really just say the hell with all of it. Like, the diplomacy is going to go out the window. You can only keep playing with people for so long. People are only going to continue to see people who look like them get unjustifiably killed and nothing be done about it. And then when you call it out, you get pretty much attacked, you know, and people come after you. That can only last for so long. You know, like I said, I think collectively, I think we're one of the nicest groups of people on the planet, because we are a very forgiving group of people. Very forgiving, because if everything that has happened to Black folks would have happened to white folks, if it were the reverse, Black folks wouldn't exist in this country. They would have killed all of us. No ifs, ands, or buts. I ain't saying go kill nobody, but I'm just saying that's literally where we're at. And I think that's one of the reasons people are also afraid of losing that majority population in the country. There's a fear that other groups of people are going to do to them what's been done. And really, for me, I don't even think that's the case. I think a lot of people just want to be left alone. Me as a Black person, I just want to be left alone to live my life and not have to deal with no nonsense. And I think one of the other aspects that makes it so interesting is because I often get I guess because I have so many videos that cover so many topics, I'm always going to get the wave of people who want to come and talk trash and, well, why don't you pull yourself up by this bootstrap? And here comes that victimhood mentality. Because, of course, they got a phrase for everything when you call stuff out. Victimhood mentality, race baiting, what else? Put it in the chat box. What are some of the other names they got? Reverse racism. Dang, there's so many other ones. Come on, in the chat. Give me some other ones. Okay, well, I forgot this thing got a delay, so ain't no telling. Y'all probably typing stuff and I ain't even seen it. But anyway, going back to reverse racism, race card, I think we said. Anyway, just keep going. But they have a phrase for all of that. Divide up, you're being divisive, which is an interesting one. I'm like, if I'm calling out racism, how is it divisive? That means you're comfortable with what's happening. Really, it's not divisive. Divisive would mean that I'm personally making an effort to make sure that your life is as miserable as everybody else's. And I don't want you to have anything, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you have no kind of, no kind of just self-sufficiency or happiness or anything. Or gaslighting is another one. Yep. Like that would be more so divisive. It's not divisive to call out a system that sucks. It's not divisive to call out a system that has given one group of people so much generational wealth that the other group can never catch up unless they get some additional assistance from the state, from the government. Like literally, that's not divisive. And so virtue signaling. Oh, yes, you're further perpetuating racism. Yeah, they calling it out. Boy. And so you just got all of that going. I did not mean to spend so much time on this specific topic, but yeah, like literally that's what you see happening. I want to shift over a little bit. And I guess just a summary of all that is one, I really think they have to go and revamp what's happening in the schools in K through 12, because you have a lot of grown adults in their 40s and 50s and 60s with the education or the historical education of a seventh grader running around here trying to call the shots. And a lot of them are in Congress. Anyway, Breonna Taylor, I want to shift over to her. Let me read a few comments before I come to Breonna Taylor, because I do want to say a few things and then we're going to go. I'm only going to read like a few comments because at this rate, we might be here till midnight. So I don't want to keep going. Let's see. Social justice warrior, overreacting. You have to realize that we are people colonized into a group of psychopaths. You're spreading hate. That's another one. I've been... Man, if I were to look at myself the way some of these people leave comments on me, you would have thought that I was one step from Leopold, the way they be talking about me on here. And mind you, I feel like I'm pretty laid back on this channel. I don't even be doing too much. I don't even do no name calling or nothing. I just pretty much give the historical facts and my 2 cents and I go on my merry way. All right. So really quick, thank you, AV West. Breonna Taylor, I just want to say this. Something doesn't feel right in the water. So I'm just saying, be prepared for some foolishness, because I think what's happening, we've seen the influx of a lot of police officers finally being charged, finally. And the scary part is when you talk about the numbers, like literally when you look at like the 1,000+ police killings that happen every few like 18-month cycles, literally there's less than 20 arrests and then even less than 20 convictions. But in the last month, you've seen a lot of officers finally be fired. You've seen a lot of officers get charged. We don't know what's going to happen in the courtroom, but at this point, for some of these cases, it's more progress than we've seen in a long time. I just don't want us to get too excited and think that that's how it's going to be from now on, because I think we have to also think back to what was happening 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. What's scaring me with the Breonna Taylor bit is that I feel like it's going to get the same treatment as Mike Brown. I just feel it. I don't trust the DA over there, even though, and yes, he's black, but again, all skin folk ain't kin folks, and he's definitely one of Trump's little minion folks. So I don't see that getting too far. And I did read that they pretty much closed the courthouse early, and they've already been boarding up stuff because apparently an announcement was going to be made soon. So it might be some nonsense. And so just be ready. And I think, again, it just shows that there's still so much more work to do. And one of the things that always happens with any society, especially a society that's collapsing, is that eventually those up top start getting desperate and they will do any and everything to maintain control of the masses, which means that the laws get more brutal, the responses get more violent, the reactions become more punitive towards those who are calling out what the problem is, towards those who go against the status quo. So I'm just saying, like, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping they do right by Breonna Taylor, but I can see them just saying, no, we're not, it's going to be some nonsense. And it kind of goes into that conversation of qualified immunity. And another thing that they're going to have to do with this policing is one of the biggest flaws, I think, and I see that like the Trump administration did put out some policy where they want to make a database of police officers who have violated and done too many, wrongs, which that piece I do agree on, because one of the things that happens is, like, even if you look at the cop that killed Tamir Rice, he shot and killed a 12-year-old in 2 seconds. And he's already, he's working at a different police department. With the policing, because there isn't a large database and, a lot of the police departments don't communicate with each other. If you go and take somebody out in Sanford, Florida, you can just go right over to Pierce County, Washington and get a job as a police officer. And then sometimes these departments wouldn't even fire people. We saw what happened with, was that Terrence Crutchers? I don't know if it was Terrence Crutchers. Like the fact that there's so many names, you almost forget who's who. The person, I think it's Terrence Crutcher, who was killed when he went to ask for help because the car was stalled. I'm hoping I'm not mixing that up. And then the whole shooting was caught on a helicopter. And I believe that officer got promoted. So boom, I don't know. And then even with like some of this police reform that's out, some of these laws and stuff and the reforms have been out for years anyway. They just never really enacted it or enforced it anyway. It's kind of like when New York, they started trying to parade because they're like, oh, we got rid of the chokehold law. I'm like, but that's been into policy since 1993. So that was one of the reasons why there was so much backlash when Eric Garner happened, because it was like, y'all already had a law saying no chokeholds. So, goodness. So again, just let's cross our fingers and hope that things go right with Breonna Taylor, because it's just giving me flashbacks to Ferguson. And I think what hurt so much with Ferguson was that people already knew what was up. We already knew what they were going to say. But when you had that DA go and make that announcement about why they weren't going to charge Darren Wilson, and then he pretty much opened his mouth to say, like, y'all did all that chanting and stuff for no reason, and the hands up, don't shoot part was all falsehoods, and you guys pretty much made idiots of yourself. And just he was up there for like 30 minutes just talking trash, just really digging in, just digging it in even more. I'm just like, man, okay. So there's that. Let me read a few comments, and then we're going to talk about some of the conversations in regards to some of the infighting that's happening within the Black collective. Let's see. I've said a whole lot today. I'm out of breath, y'all. I'm tired. I've been up since 6 this morning. So Julius said, I have the same feeling that you do believe they're going to screw this case up really bad for Breonna Taylor. I just see it happening. Like, I just see it happening. I'm not trying to put it in the universe, but you just got to know what country you live in. I never have any expectations for anything good in this country. If something good happens, it's a pleasant surprise for me. And I think that's a horrible way to live, but like, I think Tana May is still on here. But one of the things she always used to tell me when we were in college, especially with friends, because when you're like 18, 19, 20, 21, friendships are all over the place. She used to always just say, don't have a whole lot of expectations for people. That way you'll never be disappointed. Like, that's pretty much how I approach America. I have no expectations. And especially based on the history. And once you've looked into things and you understand how things work, you're almost a fool to believe that the system works for you. It's just not built for us. Cops act as judge and jury, killing people left and right. I totally agree, Willow Tree. Let's see. I don't trust anything with Trump's name on it. I don't either. Trump does a lot of performative things. He tried it with that crap he said about Juneteenth, about how he made it popular and nobody knew what it was until he brought it up. Personally, for me, Juneteenth, I think is kind of something we should have for ourselves in-house anyway. Like, I feel like that's more of our kind of thing. But, it's fine if they want to kind of branch it out and make it a larger holiday. That's fine with me. But what you're not going to do is take credit for that. And then he already... Lord, when you talk about him trying to host a rally in Tulsa on Juneteenth, of all places, I'm like, are you kidding? Like, we've done a million videos talking about the Tulsa riot and how they pretty much went and killed all them people and burned down the entire Black side of town. But, it's kind of like, I think sometimes he knows what he's doing, or it's the people who are around him who know what's up. He can't be that oblivious. That's just too much of a coincidence for my liking. And that was in poor taste. He did move the rally to a different day, but for those ones going to that thing, they done told y'all don't sue if you get sick. But okay, Trump. And then the worst thing with him is, like, even when he gets out of office, he's gonna always have security. You can't even catch him on the corner. Like, that, like, man. Let's see. King of Gun. Hi, Calvin. It's my birthday today. Happy birthday. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. I'm doing a terrible job of reading the comments. I do apologize, guys. I just want to get to all my talking points. And then I will say this, like, once I get through all these talking points, I'll kind of address some of the commentary and the questions you guys asked in relation to things towards entertainment and music towards the end. I just want to get all the heavy stuff out the way first, because that's what most of you come here for. So, don't give the Trump clown show any energy. That's right. We don't talk about him too much on here. Okay. So there's been a lot of conversations I've seen in social media in the last few days in regards to where the Black community stands collectively when it comes to protecting everyone within the community, when it comes to how Black women are treated, even when it comes to how those who are in the LGBT community I was about to add another group, but like literally how the different communities, how people respond. And are there some in the community who do not get the same support or exposure? And I've seen a lot of verbiage saying like Black men don't respect Black women. I've seen a lot of verbiage where it's kind of like, it seems like Black lives only matter if it's straight Black men. I will say this. I think what happens is usually the people, and this is more so in response to some of the clips that I saw, like the clips that I saw where I saw the dude, I'm stuttering now, I sound like a preacher. The dudes throwing the Black woman in the trash can. The woman that was killed, who she was already having problems at home, which is why she wasn't at home. And she ended up, she was one of the protesters and everything like that. And she had just been talking about what had happened. And she made the tweet about being sexually assaulted. And then she was found dead. And then unfortunately, her suspected killer is a Black man. There was a clip I saw a few weeks back where I think it was a car accident. It was like some Black folks, and it was a trans woman, and they like pretty much just hounded and beat them down, like just terrible. And so you've seen a whole lot. And you also, even on Twitter, sometimes you'll see various conversations. I'll say this. What happens is you have a lot of people who I just say are clowns, and the clowns are usually the loudest ones. And so what happens is those who are doing right by the collective, you don't always hear everything from them because they don't have to project and parade that they're doing a good job of what they do. Like, I think like because I keep hearing things like, oh, where are all the good Black men? We're here, but I don't think we have to always go and parade all of our good deeds to everybody to be seen, because when you're really about that life and when you really have your stuff together and when you're really a good person, your work already shows and reflects in society anyway. So what's happening is you're seeing so many of the people who pretty much they still got some growing up to do. They have some learning to do. They have some maturing to do. They're usually the most vocal. And I think a lot of that comes from the point where they're fragile or they're afraid of different things, or, okay, they're shooting fireworks. It's not shooting, just so y'all know. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. But like literally, you have like sometimes, like I said, the loudest ones are sometimes the ones who are the most uninformed. And because they're so confident with some of the foolishness that they spew out, they're the ones that have a heavy presence on social media. They're the ones who make these stupid tweets, or, it's even like when people who are into interracial dating or anything like that. Personally, I don't think anybody cares about folks dating outside the race. The problem that people have is when you date outside the race, but then you tear down your own to justify why you're not dating this thing. Like sometimes you'll see a post where, somebody's dating he's married to a white woman or something. And, most people don't care. I'm like, okay, you do you. Like me coming from where I come from, like literally everybody in my neighborhood was in some kind of interracial relationship because we lived by a military base. And so people were from all over the world, and people, my whole high school, you'd have kids that were Black and Korean, Black and Filipino, Black and Puerto Rican, white and Black, white and Mexican, white and Native American, white and so, but that was just the norm. But the problem is you've seen so many people who, they'll date outside the race, but then they want to spend so much time, I was about to cuss, tearing down everybody in the community. Well, this is why I don't date Black women. One of the funniest bits I saw, when I made that video talking about what happened in regards to Ari Lennox and Tiana Taylor, when the dude was saying they look like pit bulls, but they were still sexy. And I kind of tied it into the correlation of how in history, like Black women in general have always been objectified sexually and always seen almost as beastly based on what history pretty much put out there. And in regards, Black men were also seen the same way. But the difference is when you're talking about sex appeal, when you're talking about the idea of masculinity, and when you're talking about what is seen or deemed as desirable, all of those attributes can positively work in the favor of Black men, but not for Black women. And that's all I said. And you saw so many coming, oh, you're over here pandering. I ain't following you no more. I was about to subscribe, but you doing too much. And then one of the people that left a comment, he stayed on the video for 3 days. He was camped out. And then he was like, this is why I don't date Black women. Because I was like, well, you saying it to me like I'm a Black woman. What did I do? But because they just, y'all do the most. And this is why I like my so-and-so. And I think if you want to get into that conversation, I think a lot of folks sometimes are more comfortable dating outside the race because, in my opinion, I think Black women just hold us up to a high standard. Um, as somebody who's grown up around a bunch of Black women, because I didn't have a lot of uncles, I had a bunch of aunts. Like on my mom's side, it was just me and my cousin Brandon. That's literally it. Or I guess my uncle Richard and my great uncle James. But other than that, it was me and my cousin Brandon. And then when my younger brother was born, and then the rest were all women. And it's crazy because I had 4 aunts. I had this rich aunt that's like this super big time lawyer. And then I have another aunt that's like, she's a banker. And then I have my mama. And then I had my other aunt who was like a school teacher. And so 4 different dynamics, 4 different experiences. And so I just grew up at what I say in a luxury where I got to see so many different sides of Black women. And then of course my grandma and so on and so forth. And so pretty much I've always seen so many different aspects, but growing up, I was held to such a high standard by the women in my family. Like they made sure that I knew how to cook. They made sure I knew how to clean up. I could still do all the yard work. They made sure I knew how to change tires. Mind you, my dad was still in my life too. Like I lived with both of my parents, but in those summers when I would go to Savannah or whatever, like all of the different women who are in my life, and this includes friends as well. Like even some of my closest friends will tell me about myself when I'm in the wrong. Or if I need to reevaluate how I've done something, or if I did a girl very terribly, they'll say, no, you effed up how you treated her with that. Like literally, I had all of that in the mix for me. And so I don't look at that as pandering. I just think within our collective Black women, because in our community, we have been through so much, Black men and Black women together, we've been through so much, we've always had to have each other's back. And so with Black women, I just personally believe that they will always hold us to a high standard. And so when you talk about it in the context of dating and dating outside of a different race, you can't always say that's going to be the same for women of other races. And there's no disrespect to any other woman on here who is not Black. But what I'm saying is, for those of you who are watching that are white or Hispanic or anything else like that, for you all, you're not living under the same system that your Black boyfriend is living under. And so there's going to be conversations that you're not going to be able to lead with him. There's going to be expectations that you may not have for him, that he may have for himself or his family may have for him. But he is probably, there's that support system is just different. And so I think that's kind of one of the reasons why you see sometimes people run away from dating within their own race, because you recognize that there's a responsibility to your community. And some folks just don't want to do that. And then there's just some folks who just find love wherever they find it, and it is what it is. I'm not going to make it super, super deep and try to tell people who to date or who to marry. But again, like for me, in this current era, in this current time, I got to wake up next to somebody who understands my plight. I got to wake up next to somebody who, if I'm tripping and I'm in the wrong, I trust them enough to call me out on things. And, as for you as a Black man, this is what I need from you. Or, and I'm going to do the same. Like I want to be in like a relationship where we're learning from each other. It's not me just doing all the work. And it's not me just being fetished or sexualized because, what they say about Black men. Okay, that's why she got me. Like I wouldn't want to be in a relationship like that. Because you even saw that with the protesters. How many signs did you see where it was like, can you guys stop killing Black men because I love Black penis? I'm like, what the hell? That, like, I understand you're out there fighting for me, but now you're pretty much saying that, if the stuff ain't right below the waist, then I deserve to die. Is that the verbiage that's coming out? Like, what? Anyway, let's move on. So I think, again, there are some people who are clowns. There's going to be some, because again, it's 40 million of us. And I'm speaking Black folks. Everybody's not going to have it right. And again, when we just talked all that stuff about our history being warped and the experiences that we've had, like literally for me, the way that society has made things, I already feel like a lot of us are already an exception anyway. Collectively, we technically, I think, should be worse off than we really are based on what's happened to us. But because we're such a resilient people, I think we still make those strides and make those climbs. And so I just say, for the ones who you would say are in the way, or the ones who, they don't support certain groups of people because of, I don't know, who they're sexually attracted to, or they don't support certain groups of people because, they're in a position where they really are on a journey trying to figure out who they are when it comes to gender. If that's the lane you want to be in, where you okay, if they get killed by police, it is what it is. I mean, they were gay. I don't know what to tell you. Then for me, it's like you're in the way. Like me, I support all Black lives. If you Black and you working for the progression of the collective, I'm down with you. No ifs, ands, or buts. Plus, I don't know why people are so like, I don't know. I think people spend too much time honing down on sexuality and everything like that anyway. Like I think people spend too much time invested in that. Like who cares? You know what I mean? Anyway, what else was I going to say? Because I think last piece, because I was going to say, like, even with the killings, because I think there is a conversation to be had. Like, it does kind of hurt my heart a little bit that Breonna Taylor, the only reason we're really hearing about her is because of social media. Like, Breonna Taylor's situation happened months ago. It's finally getting the traction because people finally latched on. I would like to see that same, what's going on, Torre? I would like to see that same energy across the board, but I do understand, like, things happen. And even like when you talk about Dominique Fells or Raya, I think Milton, those are like two trans women that were recently killed as well. You're not hearing their names in anything. And I don't care how you feel about certain groups of people. At the end of the day, these are still your cousins and your brothers and your sisters and everybody else. So I need folks to do better. Moving on. Dang, we got some stuff to talk about. Then the lynchings. Let's see. So we've seen there's been like at least five that I've seen reported on where people have allegedly committed suicide and were found hanging from trees. The two names that stick out to me the most are Robert Fuller and Malcolm. I forgot the last name. I know it starts with an H. Me personally, something just don't sound right in the water. I don't see Black folks hanging themselves from trees if they want to take their own life. We've had a few conversations on this channel about suicide. I can't remember which video it was, but it was a video. It was one of the In the News videos I did. And this was one about, it was the fashion designer and she had taken her life. I did like a whole 20-minute spill about, suicides and why people sometimes go that route. So if I can find the video, I'll kind of post it and mention it in another one and you can kind of see what my 2 cents were on that. But like, I don't believe that you have Black people just going and lynching themselves off trees. That's too, it mirrors too much of what we've seen in the past. It mirrors too much of just the racial history in this country. And I don't see people going through all of that. Plus, that seems like such a daunting task to do anyway. And also, like, you saw what happened in Atlanta. They didn't talk about it in the news, but you had these white supremacist groups going around and shooting protesters. Like, literally, you've seen so many clips of like white people driving in the crowds, and you saw the dude with the bow and arrow at the rally. And the funniest bit with that was, well, it wasn't funny, but like, he had the bow and arrow. He was going to shoot it or whatever because I'm going to help the police. Of course, he gets beat up. And then the news only sees him getting stumped out or whatever. So they come and talk to him and ask him what happened. And I was attacked by 2 African Americans. Meanwhile, the whole thing was on video and Black folks didn't even touch him because that specific part of the rally, there wasn't even no Black folks over there. It was like white folks and people in the Latino community. And I was like, you see how easy it is for them to just blame us for everything. But like, you've seen so many acts of violence. And like I said earlier, as society continues to kind of crumble or collapse within itself, you're going to see more and more and more violence. So it's not too hard to believe that possibly there is some foul play in all of that. We'll kind of see what happens with the details. But again, that just don't sound right to me. It doesn't, because it makes me think of all of those activists in Ferguson that are now dead. I talked about this in another video too. I don't remember which one it was, but we talked about how there were literally like 5 or 6 people who were all different activists in Ferguson, 2015, 2016, and all of them are dead. One was found burned in a car. One was found shot. I think one hung himself. Like, something don't add up. It doesn't. I just think, again, they're going to do what they need to do to silence people. That's why you had something like COINTELPRO exist. That was one of the main things that was utilized to pretty much take down not only the civil rights movement, but also the Black nationalist movement. Like, COINTELPRO did a number on so many where they pretty much went and infiltrated a lot of the movements. And, they introduced drugs into some of the organizations and got people all twisted and burned out. And then nobody trusted each other. And you did a whole lot of stuff. You had informants that were put into certain situations. So I don't buy again, I don't always buy everything the news tells me because the news stations are all bought out anyway. All of our media comes from like the same 4 major corporations, and then, they do whatever they do and we all receive it. I don't know if you guys remember, maybe 2 years ago, there was like this statement that a lot of your local news stations made where they said something about, we here at whatever company, we believe in facts and blah, 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 blah. And there's something that will try to sometimes make us challenge what long story short, it was like this right-wing kind of organ or right-wing talking points where pretty much it was kind of like endorsing the idea of fake news. But we're not going to, it was some weird crap. But long story short, literally, a news station and literally every major network had that exact same script because, of course, they all report to the same corporation. So I know, like in Seattle, it was Como 4 News. Here in DC, it was ABC 7. In Savannah, Georgia, I forgot what station that would be. I want to say it was the WSAV. I don't know. I might have mixed it up. But again, you know, a lot of our news and stations and everything are bought out anyway. So it's hard to sometimes decipher what's real and what isn't. So I always say kind of go and look at additional sources. Like anytime I do like an in the news, I never only use one source just because the story can change. Moving on. I wrote down, let me read Sinclair Media. Thank you, Lee Anonymous. Sinclair Media, that's the company. I'm glad you mentioned that because I couldn't think of the name. Thank you. Let me read a few comments. I looked, it said he got beat down by the cast of Riverdale. I'm not sure what that's about. I'll have to kind of look back up. Have any of these apparent suicides left a suicide note? I don't know. Lola said 6 lynched. I said, all of them are connected some way. I can believe that. Amber got, I saw that, Don Worthy. Amber Geyer witness is dead. And then even the half brother of Robert Fuller, you just saw, he was killed by police, what, yesterday? Let's see. Yeah, the police just killed Raymond Fuller's half brother in a shootout today. Thank you, Neek 22. All right, let's see. All of them connected in some way. This man talks so fast, I have to choose between reading the chats and listening to him. Yo, I've been trying so hard to be cautious of how fast I speak. I just get in my pocket and get excited and just I be trying to slow down though, I swear. That's why I don't like doing live sometimes, because I just get in my pocket and just get to going. At least sometimes if it's a pre-recorded, I can watch it and be like, yo, you talk really fast. And I'll go back and reshoot the whole thing. That's why half of these videos get uploaded at like 2 in the morning. Let me see. He's Sinclair Broadcasting. Somebody said it's not talking fast, it's listening slow. No, it's really me just talking fast. It really is. Yo, the funniest thing is, like, at my center one time I had a parent meeting, and I have a large population of kids that are from West Africa as well. And so English is the second language because a lot of the parents are from like Ghana or Sierra Leone or Togo. And so sometimes I'd have my meeting, and the funniest bit is I get in there speaking like, and we're gonna have this, and the kids are gonna do this, and they just be looking like, but then it'll be so funny because I'm like, y'all speak just as fast as me, especially if you talk like about like Liberians. Like, one of the cool things with like Liberians and their English is like their words flow into each other. It's almost like a melody. And so they speak so fast, and I'm like, hey, you got me beat. I'm like, okay. But all right, let me see. I want to keep moving on because I got a few more things. All right, now we got to talk the pandering. A lot of the corporations are donating money. They're doing all of these different, campaigns. One of the biggest things you've seen right now is a lot of companies are getting rid of some of their mascots and logos that are deemed racist. Aunt Jemima, is it Aunt Jemima or Aunt Jemima? I used to call it Aunt Jemima, but so they've decided that has to go. You've seen, I think Uncle Ben is on the chopping block. They're going to change that image. Mrs. Butterworth used to have an image like that, and then they kind of shifted it around. And I think by the time you got to the 80s, it was more so of like an older white woman instead. And even the commercial that used to come on, same thing. Okay, Dana said Aunt Jemima. I just feel like I'm saying it wrong. Remember that time I was telling y'all about the drinking Starbucks, and it's that dang, it's spelled A-C-A-I, and I never say it right. I've heard it was a swai, asa sway, so I was calling it a kai. I was in there sounding stupid. Yeah, some of these words, sometimes phonetically, I still just get it wrong. Okay, XOXO Bob says Jemima. Okay, Jemima. Y'all better be right, because if I'm saying it wrong, I'm going to meet some of y'all on the block. Okay, so anyway, okay, here we go. Oh, wait, Ash to the B said acai or acai. Quick story real quick. Did I tell y'all about the time I was at McDonald's and I was like 15? I was gonna put this in the podcast one of these days. But so my friend Antoine and I think my friend Daisha was in the car with us too. We have stopped at McDonald's, right? And Antoine was like, oh, go in there and get me the thing off the menu. And so he tells me what it is. I had never ordered it before. So I'm like, okay. And so I go in there and I'm like, hey, can I get the Parafate? And so everybody looks at me like, what? I'm like, the Parafate. And I had never ordered it before, so I didn't know what it was. I was like, the Parafate, that like yogurt looking thing with I don't know, I think it got nuts or something in it. And so at this point, the cashier knows what it is that I'm trying to say, but she just wants to be funny. And so they're like, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So I'm over here pointing and I'm trying to spell it PARF. And so then this other woman who's behind me comes up to me, whispers to my ear, it's French. It's a French word. And I'm like, okay, but I don't speak French. And like at this point, why didn't you just tell me what it is? And so I'm like, French. So I'm trying to think of how, you know, the French do their spellings phonetically and everything. I'm like, okay, I did live in Europe, but I didn't go to France very often. I'm like, par fiat, par parfait, pair. And then finally the lady was like, oh, a parfait. And I'm in there because it's been 2 minutes. Yes, that thing. Like, dang, like y'all have anything else on the menu that starts with a P. Come on, man. I guess the quarter pounder, but I guess there's a Q in front. I was so pissed. That's another thing. Like people who are like gatekeepers of information get on my nerves. Because the lady behind me could have just told me it was called a parfait instead of it's French. Why do I have to investigate? Like you making me do a whole quiz, and I was like 15, so I was like, "What do you mean French?" And I had never ordered the thing before, so I didn't know what the stupid thing was called. Parfait. I'm looking at a whole T at the end. I'm like, "Well, there's a T at the end. What do you mean parfait? Parfait, parfait." Anyway, but like even with the gatekeeper stuff, I think that's one of the issues we run into, even when you're talking within a collective and trying to teach people about what it is in our history that's important. I will never forget. Here in DC, there's they don't really do it anymore, but there's this guy, DJ One Love Muhammad, who usually will host a radio show for We Act Radio. And I used to always go, there was a cafe called B Cafe on 13th that used to exist before, you know, gentrification. But he used to host this radio show like on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. And so I would always go, right? And so one of the days, and this story is going to lead into the next segment anyway, so don't worry. And so one of these days, or this was like a few years ago, we're having a conversation about supporting Black businesses, right? And the whole conversation. And so, because it was all around the conversation of a boycott, which I'm gonna get into in a minute. And so I raised my hand and I was like, you know, I think if you want to always go along the lines of supporting Black business or giving Black businesses a chance, I think there should be an app that people can use that kind of gives, you know, insight to where are all of the, and before I can finish, somebody else was like, that's already been there. That's there. We already got that. And I was like, okay, but what is it called? And so instead of them saying, you know, it's this, that, blah, 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 they go, I'm not going to tell you that. You got to do the research. That's the stuff you just got to do. And I'm like, this is the problem we have now, because really, in order for that app to be what it is that y'all are trying to make it become, it would need to be as common as Google in somebody's lexicon. You know what I mean? Like it would have to be something that just like pop, 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 pop. That's how common it should be. It shouldn't have to be an investigation to go and find. That was the argument that I was making. But they were like, yo, you just got to do the research. I'm not going to tell you. So then me and Tanae, or Tanae, my friend, we're over here looking, trying to find it. And there's like 50,000 different apps. And I'm like, okay, so this was the point that I'm making. Like some people, I think sometimes it's almost like a competition where folks are like, let's see who can be the wokest. Let's see who can have the most information. And I'm not telling y'all nothing. It's just for me. If you want to find out about this, you're going to have to subscribe to my thing. It's going to be $20 a month because that's all you get from me. I'm not telling y'all nothing. You need to do research. Like, I just think you're in the way with that. So, but going to I'm going to tie this together. So we talked about the brands and everything, right? Kind of changing their imaging, because now finally they're like, okay, I guess now that Black people have kicked over some trash cans, we might want to change some of these racist images that we have. And you've seen companies also start donating, and you know they're doing this, and oh, Black Lives Matter, this, we support this, and we support that, we support that. And they had the little black square on the Instagram page. I was like, oh, y'all just, a lot of it is very performative. It is. Now I'm not going to complain about the money that's being donated to some of these to some of the grassroots organizations and the HBCUs, and I support all of that. I just would like to see that like consistent, and I'd also like to see what some of these executive boardrooms look like. How many people look like me in your boardrooms? How many people look like me on your senior level management? Like that's the conversation you're going to have to really get into. And then again, I also want to see whose campaigns are you donating to. Because you can say all the support Black this and support that all day, but if the people and the organizations or the campaigns that you're supporting still work to disenfranchise groups of people, then you're in the way. And so what I wanted to get into is there's been some conversations about like a boycott, or I know like one of them, I think I saw it on Instagram. It's like a Juneteenth blackout where it's like, okay, on Juneteenth, only go and support Black businesses. Don't go and support other, you know, at least give Black businesses a chance to thrive. And so my only concern every time I see this, because you see it all the time, during the holiday season where it's like blackout, instead of Black Friday, go support a Black business. I'm all down with that. My issue is I think we have to get in the habit of wanting to do things for more than one day or for a few weeks. I think if you're really talking a boycott, sometimes you have to get into the position to be ready to give up something just indefinitely. Like, I think sometimes people look at a boycott as we're going to do this and then we're going to come back to how things were in a little bit. So we're going to shake the table for a little bit, but eventually we're going to stop shaking the table and sit back down at it. I think sometimes you're going to have to get in the habit of recognizing that there's going to be some corporations that just are crap. For me, like something like the NFL was a hard one to kind of stop supporting. Like, I'm not the biggest sports fanatic, but I've always been a big Seahawks fan. Love the Seahawks. Like, and not just after 2014 when they started to get good. I was a Seahawks fan for the Ricky Watters years, the Mike Holmgren years, the Sean Alexander. I was about to say Alexander O'Neal. Like, I was there for all of those years. And so as the NFL started tripping around 2015, 2016, it was hard to let them go. I was like, dang, man. Because I think a lot of people also said, oh, okay, well, once Kaepernick gets in there, we can stop the boycott. I'm like, no, like, it's bigger than Kaepernick at this point because they showed you where they stand with Black people. And yes, I guess they did the Jay-Z thing, and I made a video on that as well. But again, the NFL still is pretty much in the same foolery they've been in. And so now that you've seen Roger Goodell and them, they made the apology, again, for me, it's coming off very performative. It's just because, there's a lot of craziness happening at the moment. It has nothing to do with them really believing this stuff. Because I just think back to, I always bring up Jerry Jones. It's just that clip. I will never let it go. When the whole conversation about taking the knee, which for me was already compromising as well. Like, because remember, Kaepernick was just sitting. He wasn't even taking the knee. He was like, I'm going to just sit down. And so then they pretty much told him what he had to do. Well, you just can't sit down. It's disrespectful to the people in the military. And me, as somebody who has parents that are military vets and one that's dead, I'm just like, I'm not offended. What's the problem? And so, he's like, okay, well, I'll take the knee. But the funniest bit was like, as the conversation got more intense and it became political and you had the president talking trash about, get them sons of bees off the field and everything. And then some of the teammates were like, well, fine, we'll just stay in the locker room during the national anthem and then we'll come out. And you had somebody like Jerry Jones like, no, y'all not. You Negroes are going to come out here, toes to the line, and you're going to play or you won't play at all. And so, and you remember like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, they came out there and they came out before the national anthem. He came out and walked and he, okay, let's take this knee. Okay, let's go. Like, I was like, y'all out here just accepting anything. And so all of that was just some foolery. So again, with boycotts, the thing I would say is this: if you're going to boycott something, and my friend Tanae was telling me about this as well, because even in the program that she's in, they spend a lot of time focusing on like social justice and stuff. Sometimes the flaw that we run into is because it's such a vast approach where it's like we haven't centralized what it is we're actually boycotting or what it is we're going to support. Sometimes you have to center in on something smaller. So here's an example. Let's just say Walmart, which is one of my favorite companies to hate. Let's just say that everybody decided it's going to be Walmart that we're going to boycott, and not just boycott for Juneteenth. I mean, boycott for, we're going to boycott until we're tired of boycotting. So even if it takes a year, that's what it's going to be, right? And so how that would operate, at least in my eyes, is okay, everybody, let's just say that was the one place that every person collectively, if you could get all 40 million of us to be on the same page, decided that they were going to boycott, right? So it's Walmart, right? Everybody's saying, no, Walmart, we're not shopping there. We'll go to Target, even though they be tripping too sometimes. But okay, and now it's Target, right? So we're boycotting Walmart. And so what ends up happening is you recognize Walmart is going to start losing revenue and everything else like that. In order to keep your foot on Walmart's neck, you also tell them one of the things you're also not going to do is not a single person who is not a senior level management will be laid off. Because of course we recognize that when you're talking about most of the staff who work at a Walmart, usually it's somebody who comes out of the working class demographic, the same demographic that would most likely benefit from, changes being made after the boycott, the same demographic that would be on the disenfranchised side of how policies operate and how, corrupt the country is. And so it would be like, while you guys are losing your revenue, you better not lay off any of these people who are working, on the floor. Because if we find out, we're going to extend the boycott even more. Like, so you better figure it out because you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. Don't tell me that you can't figure out how to operate, especially when y'all are already getting rid of cashiers and you're using machines anyway. And so literally you would have to put the foot like on Walmart's neck. Like, we're not playing with y'all. And we will do this for months and months at a time. And I think one of the other things that you also have to think about, which sucks, is when you have a boycott and when you put in the energy to specifically only support Black business, because the history of this country has shown us that, a lot of times as we built corporations, as we built anything, it was always shut down. You saw it in Tulsa, you saw it in Rosewood. There's not a lot of industry when it comes to Black businesses. A lot of Black businesses are still in the mom and pop phase because they never got the investment. They never got the support to transform or evolve into industry or into a corporate business. And so a lot of times what makes it hard when you do some of the boycotts is that sometimes the things that you need may not be available if it's, if you're only looking for a Black business to do it. Or sometimes it may be that I need a special camera business to fix the lens of my camera. And that's already a field that's pretty scarce. And so it may be that the only Black owned camera repair shop is all the way in Charlotte. And so those are things you also, I think, have to think about when it comes to like the boycott sometimes. Like it's just, man, when I tell you we got so much stuff we got to deal with and live under, and it's so hard to shake the table. And when you're going against a machine, like, that's why I always say numbers are everything. So, I totally support everybody going and supporting Black businesses on Juneteenth. I just think you should make it a habit of just being a part of your lifestyle, not just on a specific day. Because even like when people would do the blackouts on Black Friday, don't support any businesses on Black Friday unless it's a Black owned business. My thing would always be, well, the blackout Friday is when everything's discounted. So why would you go and boycott on a day where they mark down everything? And then you go back the next day after the boycott's over and Blackout Friday's over and everything's back to regular price. And so now you're going in there and you're paying more for what everybody just got, for a cheaper price the day before. That's why I'm like, if you're going to boycott, it got to be more than just one day. It has to be more than just an event. And I think really, in order to make a boycott work, you're going to have to think locally. I think different organizations and different groups of people would have to get together within their collectives wherever they live and figure out what can they do within their respective area. What can they do in their ward to have an impact? Because one of the things that happens, social media is wonderful and social media is great, but social media can reach millions across the entire country. And sometimes it makes it hard to centralize everything. I think that's why a lot of these organizations are very just all over the place. I'll be honest, I am not a member of any organization in regards to any of this. I donate and I support to different ones, but I've never joined any organizations because a lot of them are just never quite centralized. And I think sometimes the messages are too broad, or sometimes there's some corruption behind the scenes, or sometimes there's always forces behind the scenes that we never see that are funding some of these organizations. And you're like, wait a minute, you're funding them? Didn't you just tell me I should have been hanging from a tree 2 months ago? Wait a minute. Oh, whoa. So I never really latch on to any organizations. That's why I never really come on here and say, support this one, support that one. I'll donate and everything, but I do my own personal vetting and I just leave it at that. And so I just personally think, like, if you really want to implement some serious change, one, you have to really start locally within your area, within your collective. And I talked about that in the Breonna Taylor video in response to people always saying, like, Black people, how come y'all only protest when police kill y'all, but y'all don't do anything else, when it's your own people? And I'm like, what world have you been living in? When you go to any neighborhood, like I said in the Breonna Taylor video, you always have those individuals in the neighborhood who've been around the way. They've lived, they're always highly respected. I told this story already. Like, my aunt lives she used to live over on Peabody out here in DC. And this was back in the day when Peabody was still Peabody. And so she had me take her car one time to go, because I was going to get some fast food or something, right? And as I was going to the car, this dude had stopped, like ran up to the car and stopped me. He was getting ready to yank me out that car and stump my face into the curb because he thought I was stealing my aunt's car, because my aunt in that neighborhood was just beloved because she had been there since like the 70s. And so she was like everybody's nurturing motherly figure. And so once I told him, like, no, man, that's my aunt so-and-so. And then, she's outside waving. He's, oh, my bad, dog. You good, bro? All right, man. I didn't know that. I'm sorry, dog. I'm just trying to make sure you good. Like, those people exist. There's always the community centers that exist. There's always organizations. There's always a bunch of different things that happen locally. I just think they don't get the attention that they deserve. And so people never pay attention to them. And so the movements that get the most, attention would be the ones that are newsworthy for the media outlets, because of course, media outlets are only going to report stories that give them ratings. So, your local news affiliate is not going to spend too much time talking about if your neighborhood decided to have like a community day and they were giving, free HIV testing, or they were giving, they were doing a food bank. It might make the morning, daytime coffee table talk news. Like, if you have one of those news stations that has like a 4-hour block and they can kind of goof off a little bit, it'll make that story, but it's not going to be on the 5 o'clock news. Not at all. Not when we got to talk about some other things. We got to show the clip of them, shooting the firework at CNN again, and so there's that. Let's move on. I'm trying to wind this down because we'll be here all night. I wrote so much stuff down, y'all. Let's see. Oh, one last thing with Black businesses, because I often hear people always saying, "Well, I don't support Black businesses because every time I go over there, they don't be treating me right." And I went to so and so, and they were unprofessional. They didn't do this. And I'm like, you know what's funny? With Black businesses, the standard for Black businesses is held to such a high regard, but people will still go to these larger corporations and get treated terribly every day and still go back. Think about the McDonald's that's most likely in your neighborhood and how terrible that customer service is, depending on who's working there. You will go back to that McDonald's every single time and prepare. Like, you already know, like, for me, I don't do as much fast food, but like, there's a Wendy's down the street from my house. And I know for sure, if I go to that Wendy's, the drive-through alone will be 45-minute wait, no matter what. And I don't get it, because it'll be 4 cars in the drive-through. We in there for 45 minutes. Like, I've already set the playlist. You just know. And then when you get there, they're going to have attitude. And then your burger's going to be microwaved. I'm like, this is why I don't be eating this crap. And so, like, but people will go and return there every time just because. And so people will give, those corporations a shot, or even Walmart. You already know when you go in there, it's going to be 30,000 cash registers, but there's only going to be 2 cashiers. And if the self-checkouts are working, everybody in the self-checkout spot got an attitude. And of course, but because they have what you need, you're still going to go there. Same thing with some of these gas stations we go to, where the service is terrible. If you got to go in there, they got an attitude. They already got layer after layer of glass because they think you're going to shoot the place up and everything. And, you go in there, you got to put the money in the drawer. They pull the drawer. I'm like, this is a lot. I just need some gas. Unleaded, please. So that's kind of where we're at. So I think with Black businesses, if you're going to have that energy for them, have it for the larger corporations. Because I'm talking too long on this. I'm gonna move on because I was about to say something, but I knew it was gonna be like another 10-minute deliberation here. Let me see here. Somebody was asking about like the police departments and how a lot of the police are walking off the force because some of them have been held accountable. So you saw like Atlanta PD, a lot of them walked off or they called out sick. You saw in Buffalo, I think there were a whole bunch of officers that resigned. For me, I say good. Like if it bothers you that your organization or your company is being held responsible for unjustifiably killing all these different people and you're pissed off about it, then you don't need to be on the force anyway. Like, really, it's just saying that it comes off as saying you should let us keep killing you. Like, I don't understand what the problem is. That's how it comes off to me. If they shoot off one more firework, it's driving me crazy. But yeah, so I'm just like, good riddance. You're just going to probably see an influx of pissed off PE teachers now. A lot of these police officers are going to go to the school system, be the PE teacher that's pissed off all day. Let me see here. Let me keep moving on. We've talked about so much today, y'all. Somebody was asking me about, there was a clip where it was in the UK, because of course with the protests, it's become global, right? It's pretty much just been the wake up call for a lot of people, and people in other countries are like, hey, stuff is tripping over here too. We want to fight about something too. And so you saw a clip where there were counter protesters in the UK, right? Protesting against those who were protesting the police brutality. And so one of the counter protesters ends up getting beat up, right? Like, gets laid out. And so there's this picture of this Black guy who goes and he's like rescuing him and carrying him to safety. Again, it just goes back to the conversation of us, like, no matter how down we want to be, there are some in our collective who are just, you're always going to, like, one, I just think we're already a nurturing collective already. It's hard for us to sit back and watch people suffer. But at the same time, for me, it's kind of like, he's better than me. I would have left homeboy right there. Like, go ahead and let your brotherhood go and rescue you, because that same brotherhood you had, it's funny to me that, those brotherhoods, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about like the anti-protesters, those who are fighting against those who are fighting against police brutality, those who are comfortable with the current system that's in place, those who fight for white supremacy to stay in the lane that it's in. It's funny that those same groups, they never operate as a collective for each other on any other issue until it's time to shut the voices of Black people down. You ever think about that? Like, when you think about what a lot of these groups go and protest against, or the counter protesters, even with All Lives Matter and everything like that, you never see them say anything until we say something. Then they got something to say. Then it goes back to the lady who all of a sudden now she cares about human trafficking. I was like, well, where were you at earlier? Where you been at? And even with the guy with the bow and arrow who went out there and was ready to shoot everybody, he went out there to protest against the people who were protesting against the police. And even when you saw the other guy, I think they hit him with a brick or something, I don't know, but same thing. He went out there with a gun, going to go and try to shoot the anti-police brutality protesters. And it's like, y'all don't ever come out and fight for anything else until it's time for racism to get shaken up a bit. They need to be out there in full force, ready, walkie-talkies, assault rifle, anything. They are ready. Drop of a dime. And if they're not on the front lines, they're on social media getting on everybody's nerves. They're on Facebook writing whole essays. They're crying because they couldn't get a sandwich at McDonald's in fast enough time. Like, I can't. Foolery. All right, I need to read comments because I've just been talking, like, and I have not paid y'all any attention, unfortunately. Somebody said in Canada, Black businesses need to move beyond chicken shacks and hair salons. I think with that is I don't know Canada's full history when it comes to how loans were given out for businesses, but at least in America, and I'm assuming they probably have very similar policies, a lot of Black businesses and ideas that came into fruition in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, they were denied the loans. They were told no. They couldn't get the investors. And so a lot of times what happens is the only avenues where Black businesses can often get the loans is the hair business, is food, is cosmetics. And that's because, one, they recognize that the cosmetic industry is so huge, there will always be a profit. So they sometimes don't believe that you can have a Black vacuum cleaner organization, that you can have a Black keyboard manufacturer, you know what I mean? And so a lot of folks get denied. And so, and that's been historically like embedded. And that kind of like, even with redlining, there's a conversation with pretty much just the denial of business loans to Black patrons and everything like that, and business owners for decades. That kind of goes into the conversation I had earlier about a lot of Black businesses not having industry or becoming corporations because there's just not enough investment. There's not enough money to go around. And so sadly, that's why you see so many Black businesses that have been in business for 60, 70, 80 years, but they're still struggling. Like, there's so much that works against Black people collectively. Like, it's exhausting, which is why I say sometimes people have to mentally take a break and check out for your own peace of mind, because you will go crazy. That's why, like, sometimes y'all get mad because I may go a week or two without doing videos. Hey, I'm doing self-care. Like, it's a lot to take on everything that's happening and always have to talk about it, because you never get any time to just live or breathe. Like, every day you wake up, is something traumatic happening. All right, let me see some more comments here. Let's see. Somebody said, right, they're mute only until Black people are fighting for their rights. It's always been that way. Lovely Coley 211 said, what I missed? You missed a lot. Don't worry, though. This whole video will be posted as soon as this goes off. Somebody said, and the group of Black people locking arms to protect the cop who got caught up in the protest. With that, like, again, it kind of goes to the whole respectability thing. You're always going to have, when you have 40 million people, everybody's going to have a different way of how they want to do things. And so some people really hold on to the business as usual aspect. And some people would like to hold on to the idea of, if we show our humanity, they will show theirs. And for me, it's just like, they haven't shown theirs yet. So like, even when there was a protest maybe last week or the week before, and they're like, okay, come out in your suits, put on your best dress, and we're going to go out there and march in suits. And I'm like, I get it, but if they shot and killed Martin Luther King in a suit, what you think they're going to do to you? Like, okay. Because I want us to get out of the habit of thinking that, if you're an exceptional person, you deserve to live. You deserve to live no matter, even if you're a crackhead, you deserve to live. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be one of the criteria for why we should, speak out or support you if something happens. Well, this person was a great person. They were a teacher. Why did, because it's like, no, nobody should be unjustifiably killed by any reason. I think we've gotten so used to the idea of police being allowed to kill folks. Like, it's just the norm. Like, you ever think about the fact that really policing it's a 9 to 5, but it's become more so a license to kill, where like, you hear the conversation, even with Rashard, they're like, oh, well, he shot at the cop. Well, that was going to happen. So he got to die. Somebody said that with the Breonna Taylor thing. Well, the guy, damn, y'all know y'all heard that. They got some good fireworks over there. But the conversation was like, oh, well, the guy, shot the police. They deserve to die. Like, we've just become so comfortable with the idea of, the police killing people. Like, it's just the norm. And so you're just like, people have to kind of break out of that. Let's see, I'm almost done here. Okay, I was supposed to read comments. I'm still reading. These comments are going fast. Let's see. Yes, Calvin, we shouldn't have to do anything to prove why we deserve to live. Exactly. You just shouldn't. Like, it should just be in how humanity works anyway. Okay, oh, this is a good question. Somebody said Asians pool their money among family and start businesses. Where is the black equivalent? It's lacking. The reason that it's lacking, again, it goes back to the conversation about loans and everything. A lot of people, when they immigrate into the United States, there's already programs and everything to help them get on their feet. And so, like when you're talking about what's been happening within the Asian community, so they were some of the first who kind of latched into the business realms of like going into cosmetics and things like that in the United States. If you just go back to like the early 50s, like we talked about this earlier before, but you know, after World War II, you had this whole era where people were terrified of those in the Asian community. Like even in Washington State, like where they had the Washington State Fair, or it used to be called the Puyallup Fair when I was living there. You know, that was one of the campgrounds where, you know, they pretty much put all of those in the Asian community, put them in the little spaces and so on and so forth. And so literally, when you talk about them getting into the hair business, the only groups of people who allowed them to work in their neighborhoods were black folks, right? And so black folks taught them how to do nails and how to do hair and all the cosmetics and everything like that. And they started to funnel and build their own money, build their own wealth. And then, of course, the United States was already giving programs as well, on top of the fact that some of them got reparations for what happened. And so they already had a money pool. And so the way that I've seen a lot of the Asian families work is, you know, family members over here, they start their businesses. Specifically, it's often the black, and I'm about to say black owned, but the black hair beauty supply stores, right? And so the catalog in which you order the supplies from at this point are all written in Korean, because a lot of the hair companies and stuff are Asian owned companies and everything like that. And so when you do have a black owned beauty supply store, they can't ever get any merchandise because the magazines are in a different language, and the business owners that run the warehouses will not sell to them. This is why it's important to support organizations like Bonner Brothers and everything else like that. But going back to my point, so these businesses make these large, you know, increments of money, and they have enough in their family pools, like you said. And so it's cousin this person and aunt this person, that person, and this person. All four of them got a shop, right? And they're also putting money into a pool. And then what literally happens is that pool is there. When the next family member who's in whatever country wants to move it to the United States, okay, cool. You're going to move here. We're going to show you how to do everything. And then eventually we're going to give you our own loan to help you open your business. And you're still going to go to the bank and get approved for a second loan. So you're going to have twice the amount of currency to start with, and boom, you're all good to go. Like, that's kind of how it works. But you know what? I will say that is something you do see in a lot of West African communities too. I think it's Susu. I think I'm saying it right. Either it's Susu, or I know some of y'all, somebody on here is West African. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But that's one of the things you've seen a lot of them do, where they have the pot of money in the family and everybody puts in a little bit, and then it kind of works in the circle, and over time, everybody ends up getting a piece of the pie. So, I mean, you kind of see it. Yeah, it's Susu. Thank you, Jayla. So there's that. Okay. We're getting ready to shift gears and talk some of the entertainment stuff, and then we'll wind down. Somebody said partner in the Caribbean. Okay. Let's see. Somebody said the Black church is the most enduring Black institution, flaws and all. That's the equivalent. I can see that. Let's see. Like, one of the things, I always try to go back and like look at all the comments after I upload the video, just to kind of see what everybody said. So I usually get to see everybody's stuff towards the end. Let's see. Oh, this has been a good live. I didn't realize there was 900 people on here. That's cool. Somebody said, how often do I live chat? I try to do it on Thursdays, but it's not every week. Usually I try to do it like once a month. I'm going to probably start doing it a little bit more, because the live chats are a little bit easier to cover a lot of topics really quick right off the bat without having to go and piece together videos and edit and everything. But what I don't like about live right now is I haven't found a service yet that's really good where I can add visuals to the lives. I've seen some, but they lag so much, or the latency is just terrible. I'm like, this would be a terrible live. So we'll get there. Okay. Somebody asked, we're shifting to the music. Oh, some of y'all kept asking. So in the picture when I posted the announcement about going live, some of you guys saw I had like the picture of what is her name from Black Panther? What's the lady? Doja. Is it Doja? Not Doja. That's the other girl. I can't think of the lady's name. Dang, the lady with the fade. Well, she ain't have a fade, but she was bald. But from Black Panther, that artwork, that's from an artist named Marcus Williams. And you can see, I mean, you can order that actually online. I got it when I was at this event at the convention center. And so there was that. And then somebody was asking, they kept seeing that there's like a picture. It's like the Poetic Justice movie promo poster. And then Dana Guerrero, that's her name. But anyway, there's the Poetic Justice promo picture, and it's Janet, but then it's me on Tupac's face. quick story with that. I did not make that. I just want y'all to know. So one of my good friends threw me a surprise party some years ago. I talked about it at the, I always make an end of the year video. And I talked about it, I think it was the 2016 video, but they threw me a surprise party. And so that picture was the picture that was on my birthday cake. So that's what that is. And then I just thought it was so funny. I printed the picture out and hung it up. So that's where that picture comes from. I know y'all know I like some Janet Jackson, but I'm not that obsessed at all right? Not that obsessed. Let's see. Oh, dang, I did not get to bring up Lecrae. I'm glad. Who just wrote that? Jayla Michelle, has he discussed violence against women? I talked about that part. And Lecrae. Yo, when I tell you, I saw that clip. This is why I think even when you talk in the church, you have those issues when it comes to like white evangelicals. I could have jumped through the screen when I saw that man say that like slavery was what you would call a white blessing. I think that's some bull crap. And I tell you that because if I were to go and rob a bank, and let's just say there were no dye packs in the bag and I was able to successfully get the money. Actually, no, I don't want to use the bank because all of that's insured. If I went and I robbed the mom and pop painter store, right? And I come back and let's say I had like $8,000, like let's just pretend people still carry cash. That would be like me saying I robbed the paint store and I took their paint and the money and it's a blessing for me. That's not a blessing. When you go and you pillage and you colonize and murder and kill, and then there's wealth that's accumulated off of the backs of that, that is not a blessing. You're living into the very problem that people have with religion already. Like, come on. And then for Lecrae to just sit there and not challenge it, I'm like, this is why I don't like celebrities having and leading these conversations, because sometimes they're just not built for it. Like, I wanted to jump. I didn't even want to fight the preacher. I wanted to fight Lecrae because he let the preacher say that and not even challenge him on that. And then again, like a lot of these, like especially these white evangelical preachers with these mega churches, some of them are full of crap anyway. So it's kind of like, I was pissed watching that. I could have jumped. Hey, I might have to do a separate video. I'm still mad about that. That one got me. I was like, are you serious? It was a white blessing. So you're telling me that, snatching 13 million people from the coast of Africa and dropping them off into the Americas where they're castrated, they're beat, they're killed, they're enslaved, their families are separated, babies are torn out of the wombs of the women are raped, the men are raped, the children are raped, all of that. For hundreds of years, it builds an entire empire, a huge empire that is so wealthy that this empire will soon eventually call the shots on how the entire world operates. And you want to call that a white blessing? The nerve. Meet me outside in the name of Jesus. Let me quit. Yeah, if I ever want to punch somebody in the throat, that preacher could have caught it that day. Him and Lecrae, 2-for-1 special. Let me see. I'm almost done, guys. Did I say, dang, what else did I write? Oh, somebody's asking like, BET Awards. I'm not pressed. I mean, I'll still watch it. It's all like virtual. So I will say the one thing is there should be no reason why there would be any bad performances, because everybody, from what I understand, is pre-taping their stuff and then they'll just submit it and it's one long video. Every performance should be so lit because there is no reason. If somebody submits a performance and it sucks, then you on your own. Like, I'm gonna talk so much trash if I do a review. If anybody has a bad performance after they've had the opportunity to pretty much be in control of how it's presented, meet me outside. Okay, we're gonna wind down, so I'll answer a few questions and then we're gonna call it a night. One thing I did want to share, because some people were asking like, how are you keeping your peace? I've shared this at least 3 times on this channel, but I'm telling you, this thing really works. Some of you may remember this, right? And so they call this, well, some people call it like a prayer jar or a wish jar. And so for those who are new, the way that this works is anytime that something good happens, you write it down, put it in a jar. Another thing you can also do, if you ever want to give somebody a really great birthday gift, if you're really like low on money or you just want to do something sentimental that has meaning, every time somebody in your life has done something great, you write all of the different things down each and every time. And then on their birthday, you give it to them. And then when they're feeling bad, they can open it and they can read it and say, oh, I remember the time, I don't know, I had a cold and you came over and brought me some chicken soup. Or boom, I remember the time, we had way too much to drink and you were leaning outside of my car, throwing them out the window, and we were on the freeway going 60 miles an hour, and all the throw up and vomit went on the side of the car. Like all that goes in the jar, and you just kind of tell those stories. But for this one, I just write down anything good that's happened. And so like every now and then, if I'm having a really, really, really terrible day, I'll go and I'll kind of look at each and every one. And the thing is, you have to keep adding to it. So like you have to keep updating it every time something good happens. So I started this in 2015. And so it was interesting because one of the times I looked at it like a few weeks ago, one of the things I said was like, oh, I'm grateful because I finally hit 3,000 subscribers. And that was like 2016. And I was like, dang, that was who I don't, you sometimes as your stuff starts to grow or, things manifest, that's been the word all week. Sometimes you don't even realize the growth that's been happening. And so it's kind of cool to look back. So I always say like, that's a cool thing to do. I'm a music head. So I spend a lot of time playing music and watching concerts on YouTube. I watch so many concerts. And then if I'm not doing that, I'm making my own music. Okay, we're winding down. We're coming to the final stretch. I'm gonna read a few more questions. All right. Reparations will never happen if the GOP has any control of the presidency or Congress. You would need an Obama-like Congress in 2019. I don't know about the Obama part, only because Obama himself kind of spoke out against reparations. But I agree with the idea of recognizing that some of these Republicans that are in there would never, ever open the checkbook. They're not going to do it. You got to flush all of them out. I think reparations, it's going to be an interesting conversation in the next few election cycles. So I like that it's finally becoming a part of the conversation. I'm all for reparations. That crap is owed to us. And so far, every time people talk about it, the numbers are too low. I was like, 500 million was nice, Marianne Williamson, or 500 billion, but that ain't enough. I was like, Kiki Palmer, that ain't enough for me. Not at all. Not when you've seen so much, like America's entire industry is built off of slavery and Jim Crow and sharecropping and everything else like that. So y'all gonna have to come up with a little bit more than that. But I'm just happy she at least brought it to the table. Let's see. Somebody said Obama had the House and Senate for 2 years. He did. I mean, I'm not gonna always tear the man down. He was able to get some things done, but I just think there could have been more. But I think where his lane is, like I said, he was the symbolism. A lot of people latched onto it. It made a lot of people feel good that just to see somebody who looked like them in the White House. And for some people, that was enough. But for many others, it wasn't. And so I think as you get older or as time progresses, there will be those critiques. But I still wouldn't always put him in the boat with some of the other presidents and paint it as if he was just absolutely the scum of the earth. Because, again, he's still collectively for the country, I think he did well. But I just think for Black folks, we didn't really get a lot. And it's funny that so many white Americans hated him because I'm like, white people did so well under him. That's what threw me off. They got some good stuff. Okay. They got, you remember like, I don't know. I'm like, what was the show? Like Barney, when they had the Barney bag and the kids would get excited and start taking stuff out and singing, like they got the Barney bag for real. It was all kind of tricks and treats up in there. But it is what it is. Sometimes I wish he had more of a backbone sometimes because it used to kill me to watch them just walk all over him and he would do nothing. I'm like, come on, man. That's why I could never be in no politics. I'd be done fought somebody. I can just picture me on the debate stage with somebody because I'd come to the debate pissed off because I probably done saw all the commercials they had about me from the week before. So I'm already in there ready to fight. We just wait. I'm going to have the jokes ready. Like they would never put me in any office. And then he also just had a whole system working against him. Like you had them Republicans. They weren't having it with him at all. So, it is what it is. Somebody said, do you think Black Americans should be trying to leave the USA? I used to always say back in the day, like, especially when Trump was running, I was like, look, if he get in here, let's just go ahead. I don't want to hear nothing when we're on the boat back. I don't want to hear nothing. When we're on that boat going back, I don't want to hear nothing. But over time, I'm kind of like, no, I don't think, me personally, I don't think I would leave the country. I just think my ancestors have built too much of it. If I leave America, I'm taking everything my folks built with me. I'm taking like 2 of them pillars off the White House with me. We taking everything. But I just think we built so much. And my question is always like, well, where do you go? Because you can't escape the system that we're living under. It's global. And even if you go to the motherland, if you go to the continent, you go to one of those 54 countries, every single country has literally some of the same problems we have here. Even though in those countries, they're the majority, the colonization that's happened over there has done such a number. And now on top of the fact that you also have the influx of those in the Asian community moving over there and calling the shots as well in their politics. And they have a lot of people, unfortunately, who are bought out that are up top. It's like you go over there to the same stress, just in a different country. So me, I'm going to stay where I'm at. I'm good. Plus all my family's here. I'm not leaving all my folks to go across the water somewhere. I mean, the Caribbean sounds nice, but then they got too many hurricanes and stuff. But, boom. Let's see. Am I for or against defunding the police? I'm all for defunding. Because I've been saying, like, you have to reallocate where some of that money goes. The police get so much freaking money. And it goes back to even when you look at the larger picture of just the United States budget. I've always said 6% of the money goes to education. And then almost 2/3 goes to the military. When you go into like city and county budgets, it's almost similar. It's literally like 6, 7, 5% goes to education, and then the police gets so much in their budget. I definitely agree with the idea of taking some of that funding out and putting it into things that actually carry some weight. You know, if there's somebody who it has some kind of mental issue, somebody who's having a moment, why are you sending the local sheriff's department over there to go handle it? Most likely, they're just going to go over there and shoot up somebody. You know what I mean? I definitely agree with putting money into resources and putting things back into the community. You know, when you're talking about crime, only like 5% of the crime that's reported is violent. A lot of the crime that happens is usually something like theft or, you know, larceny or writing a bad check. When you're talking people going and stabbing up folks or shooting up folks, that's like 5% of the crime in the country. And another thing is, in the United States, crime has been going down since the mid-90s, but the amount of money that's been going to funding the police has continued to go up. And like violent crime, murders, all that has been going down. That's why stop and frisk was such a joke, because when it was implemented, crime had already been going down in New York City. Like it had been way, way down. And as a matter of fact, the first year of stop and frisk, crime actually went up. So I'm all about, yes, thank you, victimless offenses. Thank you for saying that. So I totally support I just think the whole system has to be gutted out, and you just got to hit a refresh button. It's not even like defunding. Like you got to get some of them people out of there anyway. There's too many people in the policing system that are there for the wrong reasons. There's a lot of people who have the power complex. They just want to be in power. And so I remember this one time at my center, there was like this fight with these teenagers. It wasn't in my center, but it was in the neighborhood. And so I went out there. And by the time I got out there, I had already diffused the whole thing, right? The teenagers are good now. You know, they still talking trash and blah, 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 blah. But because I've worked in that neighborhood for like 10 years, I'm respected. So nobody really tries me. Because to be honest, all them teenagers are bigger than me. If they want to stump me out, they probably could. But, you know, they're like, oh, God, here come Mr. Michael. All right, let's calm down. And so I have already diffused the situation. Somebody in the neighborhood called the police. Here come the police, Fairfax County squad cars coming in there. It's like 3 cars deep. They coming out there ready. And I'm looking like, what y'all about to come out here and do? Beat up some 15-year-olds? Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Anyway. Oh, good. Oh, who wrote that? Theodore, all the money is spent on settlements. You are not lying. You know how, if you go and look at how much money these police departments have to give to folks. My grandfather back in the day, the LAPD had to give him like $500,000 in the 90s because they raided the wrong house, kicked his door in and everything, looking for somebody, and they were at the wrong house. They gave him like $500,000 years ago. I don't know where the money's at. We ain't seen it. He might be sitting on it. I don't know. But he got a huge settlement. But yeah. Calvin, did you do stand-up comedy where you lived before the pandemic? You know, I didn't even get a chance to do it. I was so mad. Like I had already looked at different venues and stuff because that was one of the goals. For those who've been following me for a long time, initially when I started this YouTube channel, the goal was it was going to be a way to market my comedy. And also because I was teaching competition teams like hip hop dance crews and stuff like that, I'd use the channel as a resource for people who need, like if they missed rehearsal, they could go to the channel and I'd send them the link. And so that's where my whole background initially started with this YouTube thing. I was always still talking, you know, politics and race and everything like that. But I also did stand-up comedy. And so I didn't get a chance to do it. I was so mad. Like I had this whole mapped out goal for 2020. 2020 was like, I think not. That's not what we're doing. 2020 told me nope, 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 and nope. So all of my great grand plans, I just had to say, okay, back to the drawing board. But no, I definitely want to get back into it. I love doing comedy. I wish I could be a little bit more comedic on this channel, but we always have such serious topics to address. It's hard to sometimes put a joke in everything because everything sometimes you can't joke about. And so it's weird because some people, that's why I have the podcast, even though I don't make as many episodes as I would like to. I like the podcast because it kind of shows my more human side where it's not me always pissed off about something. You get to kind of see like the more, you know, just the whimsical side of my personality. When do you think a black woman will be president? I would love for that to happen, but in this country, I don't know. You saw how they acted with Obama, and then Obama really was very unique in his plight anyway, and they still hated him. So, I would love to see it though. I really. Oh yeah. Wait. Thank you. I'm gonna ask again. Is that the same question? Let me see. I don't know what it did. Sorry, somebody asked me something and I guess I missed it. I'm trying to come back to it. Okay, whoever just said the bit about they'll ask again, can you ask it again? Because I don't know what you. Oh, should we invest in the stock now? Oh, you can. It depends on what it is you're investing in. I'm not really. Most of my money is actually in bonds. Like that's what I put my money in, was in bonds, because I figured the economy would start collapsing at some point. So with the bonds, when the economy is not doing as well, your bonds are usually safe and you actually start getting gains. So mine's mainly in bonds. I have like a little bit in the stock market. I think it just depends on what it is you're investing in. Like something that would be smart to invest in right now would be anything that is in regards to anything virtual, something like Zoom, or Microsoft Teams, stuff like that. Anything that, is in need. Like the thing with stocks is, if you're going to invest in stocks, then you have to think about the trajectory of where society is headed to. What is it that people are going to always need or always want, or anything like that. But I'm not the best person to have that conversation. I am not rich and my money is not that great. Okay. Am I excited for Brandy's new album? Oh yeah, I'm checking for it when it comes. I got to check out a few albums. I like the Chloe and Holly album as well. That was a nice one. I need to check out Tiana Taylor when it comes out tomorrow. A few other folks. J. Cole. I don't know everything that quite happened with J. Cole. Like whatever happened yesterday with him and I think the account is No Name. I haven't heard the song. I just kind of saw some people talking about it, but like, I've been so overwhelmed trying to tackle all of these different topics. And then my job, like I said, has kind of been repurposed. And now we're shifting back into trying to normalize our new normal. And so I don't have the same amount of leisure time as I would like to have, even though I'll be talking trash on Twitter all day. And so I didn't really pay attention to it. But I will say it kind of goes back. I'll just say this. Again, when it comes to celebrities, I don't have expectations for celebrities, and I appreciate the entertainment, but when it comes to things that I believe in or things that I'm passionate about, they are not my go-to for anything ever. If anything, I'd rather they just open the wallet or open the purse and just kind of, because a lot of times they end up saying something and they mess themselves up all the time. Somebody said, well, what about a gay president? I don't know. Like America is a weird place. I do probably see that happening before a Black woman. I can see that. I just think America is, I don't know. It's the thing I would want to get away from is it being symbolic. I think as long as the policy is there, as long as the things that are tangible that people really want is there, and there's no challenges to it, and it's concrete and concise, and that person is viable and people really believe in them. I think anybody has a chance to be president. But Americans are stupid. So, you just never know. And there's probably been a few gay presidents anyway. We just didn't know they were gay. It is what it is. Okay. Plus, for me, I just need a president that's going to get us out of this foolishness we're in. I just need things to align. I would love for there to be a Black woman president, though. I'd love to have a Black man and a Black woman in the president and vice. That would be dope. My Instagram is Gimmieabeat. GIMMIEABEAT. What am I currently reading? The book I just downloaded on Audible, because now I'm trying to get back into getting more physical books, but Audible is it just does it for me, because I can like put it on while I'm cooking or something and just keep going. I didn't know Jermaine Jackson had wrote a book. It's called You Are Not Alone. He wrote it to his brother. So I just got that one. And then what else did I get? There is an author named Elizabeth Ace Vito. My friend was telling me about this book called The Poet X. So I just got that one. I haven't read it yet though. And then another one I'm looking at is I'm actually revisiting this book, When Affirmative Action Was White, by Ira Katz Nelson. I read it a long time ago, but I just want to kind of revisit it again. And then I want to go back and revisit Blood in My Eye, George Jackson. Like I did Soledad Brother. Like there's a book called Blood in My Eye, and there's Soledad Brother. It's all about the same thing, but the best thing to do is read Blood in My Eye first and then read Soledad Brother, because it kind of puts everything into context. Blood in My Eye is more so all of the letters that George Jackson had wrote, and then Soledad Brother goes into a deeper realm of all of the conversation. So that's kind of what I'm reading at the moment. And the book that I'm waiting for, so you know the autobiography of Malcolm X, it's coming to Audible, and I think they have, God, what's his name? The guy that's narrating it. It's not Morgan Freeman. It's the guy from Scandal that was Olivia Pope's dad is doing the narration. I can't wait for that to come out. That comes out September, October. I'm waiting for that one. Let's see. Am I planning for the book club still? I am. I'm just trying to, I do a terrible job of kind of organizing this channel because I'm just all over the place. So I'm trying to, Joe Morton, thank you. I'm trying to find a way to be a bit more structured. Like what I would like to do, I wish I could operate on the schedule of like, and In the News comes out every Tuesday, or, you know, the live session would be every other Thursday, or, you know, whatever else I have. I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic. It's just so hard because my schedule is all over the place. And then I'm already a creative person. And so sometimes I may know that I need to do an In the News, but I got a melody in my head and I got to record it while I still have it. So it's hard sometimes. I didn't get to see the Dave Chappelle special, the 846. I haven't seen it yet. I'll check it out and update you guys on what I think about it. Let me see. It's late, y'all. Oh, it's only 10 o'clock or 10:55. Even my voice going out. Did I talk about B. Simone? I was out of the loop on that one too. I had to go and ask around. I'm not gonna kick the girl while she's down. I just think, I think as people make the climb, it's always important to not really like crap on the people who helped you get to where you are. And it's also important to recognize that anything can humble you quickly. But I don't know. I'm not going to take away her journey. I don't really know her. I don't know who she is or what she does. I just kept seeing her name. And apparently she's popular on Instagram. And so, again, I don't follow the influencers that are on Instagram. I don't know any of them by name, or there's nobody I follow to get influenced by. So I was so out of the loop with who she was. What I initially saw when I saw her was like her making some post about, you know, how she doesn't date anybody who lives in a 9-to-5 lifestyle because she wanted to be with somebody who would understand her plight as an entrepreneur and a creative person who may be up at 3 a.m. And I was like, okay, I guess, you know, I didn't lose sleep over it. Somebody said she's on Wild 'N Out. I don't really watch Wild 'N Out like that. I've seen a few episodes. Like, I mean, I used to watch it in high school, but I think I've seen like 3 episodes. Dr. Vini, what did you say, Tanner? Man, I see you and said something. Let me see. What did you say, Tanner May? Lawrence Fishburne. Oh, it's Lawrence Fishburne. Okay, my bad. For the Malcolm X book. Do I have a Goodreads? That's what I need to get. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you, Curls Curves. Goodreads. That's an actual good thing, because then I can actually recommend stuff. By the way, for those who are new, anybody who always asks me about like the books that I sit behind, if you go to the description on any video, at the very, very bottom, there's 2 lists of the books that I've either read that I recommend or that I think are good reading. So just go to any video that I've uploaded and go to the very bottom, and there's 2 links to a Dropbox. And I actually need to update it with the new books that I've been looking at. Somebody said, why do we focus so much on celebrities? I think it's because when you're living in a chaotic world, celebrities kind of give us a place of appeasement. Celebrities can kind of take us away from the realities that we live in. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are so attracted to like trash reality shows. It's sometimes, for some people, it feels good to see somebody else having a chaotic life because it makes you feel a little normal. Like my guilty pleasure was 90 Day Fiance. That show is wild. You couldn't get me away from the TV when that mess came on. I was obsessed with it because I'm just like, God, I hope it never gets this bad for me. But it was just some good TV for me. But I try to limit how much of that I intake, because it's easy to get sucked into all of that. And then next thing you know, you're like, you know what I mean? You spend all day in front of the tube. And then you spend all day on Instagram following all the celebrities and seeing who's fighting with who. And then you're at all the like the stupid Instagram sites that only, you know, feed into drama. All right, we're winding down, y'all. I did not say no midnight. Somebody said, didn't I say midnight? Man, I ain't about to be up here till no midnight. I ain't trying to be out here till midnight. Let's see. Bad Girls Club. Mine is Bad Girls Club. Actually, I'm lying. I have seen Bad Girls Club. When Hurricane Sandy came in, what year was that? 2012. I had a few friends and we all stayed in my old apartment, and I had some friends stay over. And so it was crazy because like I thought the power would go out, but it never went out. And so I guess there was like this bad girls club marathon on. So that was the first time I saw the show. But the weird thing with that show is I didn't understand the purpose of the show. It just seems like they went in the house and all they would do was fight, like just lay each other out. The only thing that made me laugh was there was this one girl, even though it pissed me off though. It was some girl, I don't know her name, but she was from Compton. So she kept talking about Compton the whole episode. I'm from Compton, I'm from Compton, I'm from Compton, I'm from Compton. What you want to do? I'm from Compton. So her and this white girl get in this fight. And man, so she, you know, long story short, she pretty much gets beat up. I was like, dang, man. And it was so crazy because like they're fighting in the car or something. And she's, what? I ain't playing with you. I'm from Compton. I'm from Compton. Da, 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 da. So then the white girl starts choking her, right? And she's like, I'm not playing with you. I'm not playing with you. And I'm like, how are you still like at this point, I'm not trying to dive into violence, but like if you're in the fight, at this point, you don't have to announce what you're gonna do. You're supposed to just do it at this point. And so she ends up losing. And then it made it bad. And then the white girl at the end was like, yeah, I'm real impressed, Compton. I was like, oh, I pray to God I don't ever have to get any more fights. Cause like, man, I'd be so pissed if I got on like a reality show and lost on national TV. Anyway, silly show. That's not, I ain't like the show though. Somebody said Real World. I used to watch that one in high school. I remember, I think the last season I paid attention was, Real World. Let's see, Hollywood. That has to be the funniest season. Well, it's not funny. It's just wild. I don't know if you remember. So there was this black girl on there named, dang, what was her name? I used to watch so much trash in college. Breonna. Her name was Breonna. And then there was this white girl, Kimberly. And Kimberly was from like one of the Carolinas. I think she was from South Carolina. And so I just remember the black girl, Breonna, she wanted to do like music or something like that. And so she was having these people come to the house because they were going to talk music business because she wanted to be a singer. And I guess the rule at the house was you could only have like 3 guests. And so the other people already had guests. So her guests couldn't come. So she was pissed off, right? So then the girl, Kimberly, came in and was like, I don't see what the problem is or something. You're doing the most. And so Breonna kind of yelled at her like, mind your business. Nobody's even talking to you. And so Kimberly, like I said, the Southern white girl out of nowhere goes, let's not get ghetto. Let's not get ghetto. Be normal. And I'm like, what the hell? And so the Breonna was like, what? What is that supposed to mean? And so they end up like in this whole argument. And then Kimberly keeps going. Like, so she talks all this trash in the confessional, right? So she starts talking all this trash. Like, yeah, I had to tell her, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if she's from the most inner city urban Blackville. I'm not afraid of her. I'm like, this is the most racist show. Like, but I laughed because when she was talking about the like, let's not get ghetto, be normal. I'm like, what did you think was supposed to happen? Was Breonna supposed to get a switch? Like, oh, what was I thinking? Thanks, Kimberly. You snapped me out of my ghetto switch. I'm like, get out of here, stupid show. Anyway, Tana May, you on here talking trash? Let me see. Wait. Oh, wait. She said, what, if it wasn't meant for you, give it to her. Oh, I saw that episode too. I think that was the one when we were binging. It was some other episode of that Bad Girls Club show where, I don't know, girl beat up one girl, but she beat up the wrong girl. And the girl's like, I didn't even do anything. She's like, well, go give it to who it was supposed to go to. Wild show. Anyway, all of these shows have covert anti-blackness. I totally agree. All right, we're winding down, folks. Let's see. Please look up Priscilla Slater and Tamla Horsford. I will write that down. What are you guys doing for Juneteenth? For those of you who are celebrating, that's what I would like to know. What do you guys have going on? I'm not even about to open the Pandora's box of flavor of love because we'd be here all day. Nope, not doing it. Oh, y'all done already started. Here y'all go. Here y'all go. Oh, we always get distracted. See how the whole mood of the video changed once we start talking some trash TV. What did I major in college? I initially came in as a political science major because Hurricane Katrina had just happened and I thought I could save the world. And then I discovered that I really liked music and arts and stuff like that. And so I kind of shifted over to communications because I wanted to work behind the scenes, and I made political science my minor. But I would really like to go to grad school soon. I would really like to go back. I know that I'm not centered and focused right now to go back. So I'm kind of trying to get myself together because that's going to be some money I don't want to waste. You know what I mean? I want to make sure I spend it on the right things. I'll be in DC at the Plaza. Okay. Somebody said staying in the house. Somebody said we still don't know. It's not much we could do. Sleeping in and watching 90 Days on Demand. Let's see. Dang, there's a lot of y'all in DC. Okay. Oh, that was the other thing. I was trying to set up like some kind of. I don't want to call it a meet and greet because I told you I don't like people looking at me like I'm more than, I don't like that. But I was trying to do some kind of event. But COVID got in the way of that too. Calvin, I believe you and I are born in the same year. 88. Yes, I am an 88 baby. I'm getting ready to turn 32, y'all. Crazy. Let's see. Somebody said Nigerian movies are big in the Caribbean. Yo, I like the Nollywood movies. I'd be cracking up. They're very dramatic. The mother of my goddaughter is from Liberia, and so sometimes when I'm at their house, they'll have these movies on, and it's the funniest thing because like I saw one movie and it was some kind of like shoot movie. It was, I am going to shoot you now. You will die. And I'm like, okay, but and then it took like 5 minutes for them to do the shot, and then they finally shoot, boom, and then you see the bullet go like this slow motion, and then I'm like, what kind of movie? I was in there dying. I was like, what are we watching? Wow. Somebody said they thought I was in my 20s. I feel like I'm in my 20s. Yeah, sorry, y'all. I'm getting old, y'all. I'm old. I'm older. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe I should start lying about my age just in case I do any more albums. I'm about if anybody asks on this channel, I am 23 and a half. Okay. Thank you. Just in case I ever get famous, we're going to have to cut some years back because I'm 8 years away from 40. All right. Let's see. Juneteenth, making red beans and rice. All right. I just actually had that for dinner yesterday. I made this. Well, I made this kind of like spicy, like buffalo chicken with this chili sauce, and then I had the red beans and rice to go with it. Somebody said I look 22. You see what my mama looked like. She does not look like she's turning 60 next year. Okay. Shout out to Landover. I'm probably the oldest one in here. Okay, the oldest subscriber I know that I have his name is Alan Old School, I think. He is 79. So I don't know if anybody on here is older than 79, but I think they're the ones. Or Albert Old School. That's the one I got. Somebody said we 80s babies can fool anyone. Listen, so for some of you who are a little bit younger, y'all better lay off some of that lean and some of that other stuff. Because no disrespect, some of you 22-year-olds looking real rough. Y'all done live some rough lives. I'm like, what is going on here? They said, wait until you hit 40, your body will let you know. Yo, my body let me know when I was doing a music video. Like all of my dancers were like 18. I was over there winded as heck because I didn't like I used to dance years ago. And so back in the day, I could do that crap for hours and hours and hours. And we'd be having 8-9 hour rehearsals back when I was at Howard and stuff. And so, shooting the music video, the rehearsals alone, we'd only rehearse like 2 hours in sessions. And when you have to still teach it and perform it, and like if you're ever teaching or choreographing, you always have to do it full out to be the example for the dancers who are with you. So okay, so we're gonna try it one more time, guys. Okay. And then when we had to actually shoot the video, man, I'd get so mad if one of the dancers messed up because there was one take and I was so mad we couldn't use it because the dancer just totally messed the whole thing up. But I ate it. I just ate that choreography. And then we went back and looked at the playback and I was like, we can't even use this. And I was so winded and they're like, okay, go ahead and do it again. And the director didn't realize like, hey, after you do these takes like 3 and 4 times, we're gonna have to take breaks because you're gonna get tired and you're gonna sweat and everything. And the thing I'm pissed off about the video is I didn't realize like my hair was all like, I think because my hair was wet, it ended up like super, super flat in the like solo shots. I can't stand how it looks, but whatever. I was looking like death in the video, but whatever. So I feel it sometimes. My knees and crap be tripping. But the cool thing is since I work with kids or when I had my center, I was always out and about. Like if the kids were doing dodgeball or something, I was playing it with them because that's the only time I can legally hit the kids. No, I'm just kidding. Or if we were doing laser tag or something, I was right there playing with them. So I've always been very active. It's not like I've just been sitting down. You know what I mean? Yes, everything after 25 hits differently, but I still feel the same like I did from like 25 onward. That's why it freaks me out a little bit as I get older because I'm like, dang, where are the years going? Like, man, Because I literally was like 16 like 2 years ago, I swear. That's why it's so funny when I tell the podcast stories, because I remember the story so well. And then when I look back, I'm like, that was like 15, 20 years ago almost. Thank you. Is that Niam? I appreciate that. I'm tired of you calling yourself old. I know I'm not old. I'm just an old soul. That's why I say old. I don't think I'm a step from the casket or nothing. Plus, I'm somebody who actually enjoys getting older. I'm not afraid of aging and getting older. I wouldn't want to be 22 right now, especially with everything that's happening. I'm happy that I'm the age I am. Calvin, you moved to the East Coast. Yeah, I moved to the East Coast for college when I was 18. Yeah, I just turned 18. Janet had a baby in her 50s. Yeah, she sure did. That's why I didn't get to see that show. I was pissed too. Y'all know I'm pissed that she had to cancel that concert because of COVID. I was supposed to see Janet in about 4 weeks. I was ready. It's okay. She'll give me a good show when she comes back. I ain't even mad about it. I do. Yep, somebody said I need an industry age. I told you my industry age is 23. All right, I'm gonna cut this down some, like cut it way, way down. Look, if I push this back, I took off 2 years already. So like I'm gonna be 23 because some of these entertainers, I know they lying about the age anyway. Let's see. Plus, I don't think my sides are ever gonna grow all the way in, so that's kind of what works in my favor. My dad's never came all the way in either, so that'll kind of work for me a little bit more. All right, I'm gonna set my clock. When this clock goes off, we're getting off, folks. But I appreciate y'all for hanging with me this whole time. I was nervous about doing this one because there was so much to talk about. I didn't know how this conversation was gonna go. I was like, either this gonna be one where I get cussed out because people don't like how I address stuff, or I don't know. So I set my clock 10 minutes. And now the Black Diamond tour is postponed. Yeah, but no, it ain't even postponed. She canceled the whole thing. It is what it is. So, but like I said before, I think I don't mind all of these concerts being canceled because it gives all of these artists a chance to go back to the drawing board and make their shows even better when they return next year if we're able to do concerts again. So I'm not even pressed about it. I think it's, I don't mind, because even like with Janet, like I was supposed to see Unbreakable, but she got pregnant, and so my show got canceled, and then she returned with State of the World tour, which was like the revamped version of Unbreakable, and I think I got a better show than the Unbreakable one, so that was fine. Do I miss Taco Time? Yo, you must be from Washington State if you talking about Taco Time. I don't think I ever ate at Taco Time. I don't remember eating there. I remember the commercials. Wow. Is that only like a Washington State thing? Is there a Taco Time in y'all state? I don't think it still exists anymore. Wow. Taco Time. That's that just took me way back. Took me back. At least we get our money back, because a friend told me Ticketmaster doesn't give refunds. Yeah, Ticketmaster, if your show gets postponed, they will not give you your money back until the postponed dates have been rescheduled. So that's why I didn't mind like a lot of artists canceling their shows, because it's better to just cancel the tour so people can get their money back, especially now that people may need it. Because, there's, a lot of these tours were announced before everything happened in March. And so people may have spent more than what they really should have been spending for a concert anyway. You think about the people who were crazy and spend like $1,500 for meet and greets and stuff. For people who may have lost their jobs in the last few months, that $1,500, it's more than what they're getting in this stupid stimulus that folks got, and seeing that there's not another one coming, so it is what it is. Have I considered doing a meetup? Yes. When I released my last album, I did an album release party, and I did invite some of these subscribers. Like I tried to take note of the subscribers that I knew were in the DMV, and I invited some. Some actually did make it, because I tried to, whatchamacallit, because again, when you start getting a larger channel and when you always talk about subjects that sometimes are not popular, you don't know who's going to show up to stuff. So I didn't just put out an open invitation because I didn't know who's going to show up. Plus, it was also my actual friends, and then people I work with, and then people I'm close to. And so it was like 4 different networks in the same space. So I didn't want to just have anybody coming up in there and then somebody, they trying to meet me outside, and now I got to fight and go pull the hammer out of my car. So I was trying to do something before COVID hit, but we'll figure something out. I would like to do that. But if I do some kind of meet and greet thing, it wouldn't be anything where it's me sitting on a stage and thank you all for coming. It'd probably be like a round table, and we'd have a discussion just like this, or we do some card games or something. Like, I want it to feel as normal as possible. Jayla Michelle, I'm in the DMV. I just moved, so y'all add suggestions. I might have to go back up and see the context of what you're talking about. Here Here in Alberta. All right, Canada. Calvin, as someone who works with kids, how do you deal with trying to get them motivated towards civic engagement? I think I get on my kids' nerves, to be honest, because I'm always the one nagging about everything all the time. They already know, like if they ever say the wrong thing that sets off a trigger, they're about to get a history lesson. It drives them crazy. Because one of the things I fought and clawed with was colorism, because they had it bad when I first came. Just, because even within that neighborhood, like there's a lot of international stores and stuff too there. And one of the first things you see when you go into the stores is there's whole shelves of bleaching cream. And so some of my kids have parents that use it. And I'm like, we're not doing that. So I used to have to go in and give the whole history lesson and helping the kids embrace, all the shades of brown. And, one of the things I do at my center is, well, I don't do it now because we haven't been open, but I have a program I run called Teen Talk. And really what it is it's specifically for my high schoolers. And I close the club down, and the only people in the club are the high schools. We order like some pizza or something. And I have like 3 of my high schoolers that pretty much, I tell them for the duration of the week, I want you to write down questions and topics that you guys want to talk about. And so then we all get together, and, there's the pizza and the food, and it's all the high schoolers, and it's a safe space where they can talk about anything. We'll have the conversation, and they lead the discussion. I don't take over the discussion. I shut up, and that's the one time you don't hear me say much. I just sit and I let them lead the discussion, and all I do is I step in if the conversation gets heavy or if they need some context for something, then I jump in. And so I've been trying to teach them the idea of like just civic responsibility and recognizing that you are a part of society and you are a participating member. And so you can either choose to just live your life quietly and stay in your bubble, or you can choose to actively engage and try to inspire change. And so that's one of the things we do. My club or my center is it's very heavy on history. It's very heavy on social issues. It's very heavy on culture. I teach the kids to look at everything globally and not just within the realm of how Americans see things, but try to look at the perspectives of what happens around the world and how it affects us. And, I kind of do all of that. All right. We'd be here for another 3 hours if I start talking about my center. Let's see. Somebody said a meet and greet on Zoom. Hey, that might be okay. We might have to do that. Okay, we're looking at that. I don't know how many people can be on the Zoom though. I don't think you can have, 500 people on Zoom. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the limit is. Let's see. My plans for this is what I would like to hear. My plans for Juneteenth. The rest of y'all pay attention. They said playing Calvin Michaels music all day on repeat. Thank you. The rest of you follow suit, specifically the hardcover. I'm actually going, and one of the things I'm doing, I'm going to go back and remaster my first album after I finish some other things I'm working on, just because now that I know what I'm doing, there's some things that as a creative person, I just want to fix. So there's some things I'm going to go back and fix. There's some vocals on there I'm going to kind of go and re-record. I want to go and change all of that. So hopefully I can have that done before the end of the year. Just because as I kind of build my little resume, I just want everything to be presented in a way that I would like to be. It's still a really great album, though. I love Symphonic Euphoria, but I just want to polish the sound. And I realized that once I put it into the I can't even say the word, distributor sites and everything, a lot of the songs were in the wrong format. And that's why some of them sound the way they do. And I didn't notice it until after I did the hardcover and realized how much better it sounded. I was like, wait a minute, why this one don't, okay. Mike said, I love you from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago. Your album is great. Hope things are better. Black Lives Matter. Shout out. Hey, Caribbean. Thank you. God, there's so much. Somebody said who's zooming who. Okay, Aretha. I would have tried to sing it, but I'm losing my voice if you can't tell by now. Plus, it's Aretha Franklin. She ain't in my range. Do I have a Facebook page? I do. If you just type in Calvin Michaels, you can find the Calvin Michaels page. I'm more active on Instagram, though. I'm not really on the Facebook like that, but I put it there because I know older audiences tend to be on Facebook more than Instagram. Dang it, I was just reading a comment and the thing jumped down. I think somebody was asking what would I study in grad school. If I get to go, I want to actually get my doctorate in history or African history, or African American history, and I want to actually teach on a collegiate level. Like my end dream career, like before I retire, is to be like a professor. It's like, so I want to spend maybe like the next 10 or 15 years still doing all the fun media entertainment type stuff, and then I eventually want to transition and go into teaching adults. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back and at least get a doctorate if I want to be tenured, which I'm like, where do I even find the time to do it? So I'm trying to figure it all out. But at the same time, who knows if other doors open and I don't know, maybe my comedy jumps off or I get a really great job behind the scenes in the music industry or something, then I'm not going to bypass that idea, but I'll still want to teach, but you know, I'll just have a different pathway. Shout out to the Bronx, UK. What time is it in the UK? That's at least like 6-7 hours, right? You must have just woke up. No, Candace Owens. I talked about her on the last one. I don't even want to address her no more. Some of you guys were asking my opinion on Black conservatives. I talked about that movement on the last live, and it's on the first one, because remember, like, our connection got funky, and for some reason I had to start over and do a second one. The conversation on Black conservatives, I believe, is towards the end of the first video, I believe. I think. I could be wrong, but if not, you can just watch both lives when you have the time. I know these things are long. Let's see. My clock has 48 seconds, so I'm gonna do one last question, and then I'm gonna get off. Wow, Nepal is here. Okay, shout out to Nepal. That's wow. Okay, Himalayas, but we see y'all. Let's see. You're heading towards midnight, Calvin. I know. I talked all that trash, and now look, we still here, but we about to get off because my alarm is about to go off in like 20 seconds. We need a video about women, and well, the thing, I have a bunch of videos on that. Like, the thing is, my only flaw within the news as a series is that sometimes there's some great subject matter, but it gets lost in the video because I'm talking about so many different topics, and sometimes you don't catch it. Because even like the video I did with like Steve Harvey and Monique when they were having their conversation, there's some really good gems in there just about how the film industry operated with in regards to Black folks, but people wouldn't get that unless you actually watch the video. Or even the Breonna Taylor video where we talk about the conversation of violence within the Black community and the actual numbers versus what people report. You know, unless you watch the video, you wouldn't know that that was in there. So, okay, last one, guys. It's early in the Bay. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock over there. But yeah, Jayla, I have a bunch of videos in regards to that. You kind of just have to dig through the channel a little bit. What do you think about Monique, her still continuously going after Oprah? Should she let it go? I just think sometimes when people are hurt or people have been wronged, sometimes it's hard to let things go, especially if the other person isn't acknowledging what they've done. I think kind of makes it hard. A lot of people got on me, when I kind of defended Monique, because they were like, well, they don't like how Monique talked about Oprah and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I think you'd have to go to the context of the beef that they have. Like, if you've been molested by your sibling and it's a family secret that you don't want broadcast, and then somebody puts it on their show and against your wishes brings those family members on to talk about something that intense, you know, I don't think you should expect somebody to have the most, you know, pleasant response, you know? So I think that for her, I don't think they're ever letting that go. Somebody said you didn't really, where was I at? I just lost it. You didn't really talk about women, Calvin. All right, Gaslit, what would you like me to talk about? Black women in the community said at the beginning we were going to start that. Did I? Maybe. Well, I think because I was talking more so about the conversation of our Black women being protected within the community, or our Black men getting this, not Black men, I'm sorry, our Black women getting the support. That's kind of, I think, what I segued into. But and then I think I did spend some time talking about like Black women in my life and who raised me. Because we're short on time, I'll address it again. But I think we did talk about it. All right. Every time I say I'm getting off this thing, we don't ever get off. We're getting off though. Somebody said lack of acknowledgement is painful. Not being believed is worse. That is hard. And I think with Monique, and now that you're seeing so many people be called into question about their antics, Monique looks right. With each day that passes, Monique looks more in the right each and every day. Some people just don't like her approach, but I'm like, at this point, there's so many skeletons and secrets in the industry. So, you know, if she's calling it out, people just don't like that she's calling it out because it's going against the status quo. That's what that's about. And someone like, oh, she could have been more professional with how she handled it. But I'm like, when you've given so much to an industry, you had 20 years and everything, and you just watch the industry just pretty much close the door on your face, then you can't expect somebody to be super whimsical. I just think when people are hurt, they're going to respond to that hurt. They're going to do whatever they need to do to make themselves feel, you know, better. All right. Anyway, This has been good, you guys. I'm going to lay down, and I got like 3 shows in my DVR I'm trying to catch up on. I really should go to bed because I got to get up early. Let's see. This was really, really good. I appreciate you guys for hanging with me, especially those who are still there. Can we talk about how we can get our own communities built? Let's do this. I'll note it and we'll come back to it just for the sake of time. But this was good. Hey, Sean Mike TV, what's going on? You always come at the end, man. You did that last time. But no, this was good. Oh, wait, last one, because I do want to talk about this. What do you think about people donating millions to HBCUs, but only the more known ones? Me, I support every HBCU. I do think what's going to have to happen is people have to start really fighting for their state governments and the federal government to support some of these institutions a little bit more. I think the reason that you're going to always see a Hampton or a Howard or a Morehouse or Spelman or even North Carolina A&T and even Dillard, get a lot more of the attention sometimes is, well, one, some of those schools are much larger schools. Like a school like Howard is like 13,000 students. And then some, again, when you're just talking prestige, because a lot of these schools just have such a huge alumni association and very successful alumni that are, in the entertainment industry, they just tend to be more visible. But I do think you should try to support all HBCUs. And I think, I personally think every HBCU should be funded by the federal government and should definitely get a lot more support. Like there's no reason why Morris Brown should close. But again, it's also about vetting some of the people that work behind the scenes. There's a lot of really great HBCUs, so I support all of them. And I think what would have to happen is maybe people launch campaigns to bring attention to some of the other HBCUs. But and even while doing that, I'm not a fan of tearing down the ones that are getting some shine. Like don't tear them down, because then like let's say that those institutions were to close, then where does that leave us? So again, I support all HBCUs. If you went to one, I think you're going to get the same experience no matter which one you go to. I think that's why people go to them. I think that's why a show like A Different World worked, because it was reflective of the experience of pretty much any HBCU. As far as the campus, sometimes things change depending on if a school's in the city or if it's in a more rural area, but like the actual experience on the campus, I think is universal. And I think that's why A Different World worked, because it tackled so many different conversations. So yes, I support all HBCUs. And yeah, I do be side-eyeing sometimes because folks be coming after Howard every day. I'm like, God dang, I ain't tired of talking about us yet. But it is what it is. It's all in love. All right, guys, I'm going to bed. I appreciate y'all. Good night. Stay safe. Happy Juneteenth. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Check in with the folks that you ain't heard from in a while. Just make sure they're good. And take some time for yourself as well. If things are overwhelming, if things are, if it's too much to watch the news, don't watch it. You know what I mean? It's still going to be there when you come back. You know what I mean? So if you need to take time to have your me time or whatever it is that, gives you peace and serenity, go and do that. Because that's the only way we're going to make it out of this period that we're living in, because every day gets crazier. Goodness. And sometimes all you can do is laugh away the pain, even though the pain hurts. Anyway, I'm out. Good night. See you guys later. Okay, click this off.